2024, a day after the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And of course, thank you for the Big Sur Lodge for hosting today. And what a lovely spread. I don't know if that was them, but I haven't seen a spread like that before. So whoever did that, thank you very much for doing that. And then, of course, we got coffee and water in the background and back, and then everybody knows where the restrooms are right out front. Go ahead and moving on to agenda item number 2, roll call and introductions. I will state your title. Please state your name if you're here. Big Sur resident, North Coast.
Martha Carson's present.
And Big Sur resident, South Coast.
Bree Harlan, present.
Big Sur Chamber of Commerce.
Kirk Gaffel, present.
Community Association of Big Sur.
Ryan Leitzinger, present.
Monterey County Planning Department.
Melanie Beretti.
Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District.
Hank Maria.
Coastal Commission of California.
Braylon Ammon.
Caltrans. Welcome. California State Parks and Rec. Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Saw them in Washington, D.C. I think they're out there and still enjoying the hot weather out there. United States Forest Service. 5th District, Monterey County Board of Soups.
Mary Adams.
30th District. You didn't say president, but you can say whatever you want, Mary. That's fine with me. 30th District, California State Assembly.
Mauricio Arias, present.
And you're for?
I'm here on behalf of Assemblymember Addis.
There you go. 17th District, California State Senate.
John Laird, present.
Am U.S. Congress 19th Congressional District, Jimmy Panetta, President. Thank you, guys. Agenda item number 3, approval of minutes from February 9th, 2024. Are there any proposed changes to the minutes from members for the meeting on February 9th, 2024? Please. Martha.
There was numerous typos or I think the way the process was working, the machine or whatever would interpret the word to be something else, but there was so many that I don't think it's worth even mentioning. It was just miscellaneous ones. And I think everybody got the gist of the conversations or the typos. So I would just say motion to move to, approve.
Okay, understood. Martha, thank you for pointing that out. And obviously, I'm sure based on that comment, staff should take heed to that and obviously make sure that they are a little tighter.
Well, it's a tough one
It
to
is
do,
tough.
I think, and I think everybody gets standard.
It is tough and they do a good job. We acknowledge that, but at the same time, we want to make sure there are no mistakes that can lead to misinterpretations, which I think is important. So thanks for bringing that up. We'll make sure it's a little tighter. And beyond that, any other comments or additions to the minutes from the February 9th meeting? None seeing. I don't see any others. Any objections? Well, first of all, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Kirk Gaffel.
And I'll take a second.
Second.
And any objections to the minutes? Not hearing any, minutes approved. Would also like to point out a commissioner for the California Coastal Commission, and that's Annie Northrop. Annie, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. And then agenda item number 4, comment on non-public agenda items. I'm going to take my prerogative to talk about 2 items. First and foremost, we're going to do an acknowledgement of 2 institutions down here in Big Sur for certain anniversaries that they've reached. Obviously, the 50th anniversary of Big Sur Fire, as well as the 75th anniversary of Nepenthe. And so I will start off acknowledging Big Sur Fire, and then we'll go to the other members or electeds up here if they want to do the same thing. And then we'll move on to Nepenthe, just to let you know how it will work. Okay, great. Obviously, it's nice that we get to honor the 50th anniversary of Big Sur Fires, an institution, like I said, that has been absolutely invaluable to the community of Big Sur. Just let me knock off a couple of information items about Big Sur Fire. Founded in 1974 and formerly known as the Big Sur Volunteer Fire Brigade. It, like I said, is absolutely invaluable to this area and continues to be, thank goodness for its leadership. Gary Copel, local gallery owner and candle maker, was the co-founder. And one of the co-founders of the Big Sur Chamber of Commerce. He founded this institution. He acquired a charter and recruited Walter Trotter to serve as fire chief. He scrounged up some secondhand fire equipment and protective gear, a retired fire truck, and some workers' compensation insurance, all with the support of the Big Sur Chamber and obviously local community members. However, as we've seen in the last 4 years alone, Big Sur Fire has faced and helped defeat several deadly wildfires, including the Dolan Fire, the Willow Fire, the Colorado Fire, all of which combined burned over 228,501 acres down in this area. But clearly the work of Big Sur goes beyond firefights, which is only 6% of what they do. 63% of the services Big Sur Fire performs are other emergency services, which we all see and also experience, for medical responses, rescues, vehicle accidents, all of which are immediately vital utilities for our surrounding community. Today, Big Sur Fire remains funded almost entirely by grants, individual donations, and of course, this community. Staffed by members of the community who live and work in Big Sur, and the department provides invaluable public safety service to the more than 1,700 Big Sur residents, along with the millions of visitors who come to this area each year. This organization has come a long way. I think we can all acknowledge that in 50 years. And so it is my honor to formally recognize them with information that we put into the congressional record that will permanently stay in the annals of the United States Congress. So it's my privilege and my honor, and also very humble to acknowledge the 50th anniversary of Big Sur Fire. If anybody else would like to comment on Big Sur Fire, please do.
Hello, everyone. Again, Mauricio Arias. I'm here on behalf of Assemblymember Addis, and we also have a assembly resolution here today to honor Big Sur Fire's 50th anniversary. Like Congressman Panetta mentioned, the Big Sur Fire's contributions to the community are invaluable, and I think everything that was to be said was said. But again, congratulations, Chief Harris. We really appreciate your leadership here. And if you would like to, come up here and receive the assembly resolution, it's a joint resolution with Senator Laird, and it's right here. Where are we gonna put all this? Yeah. Oh,
Whenever you get located in the south in a permanent location, you can put this there. Well, we have the photography. And it's not just any photography.
Yeah, but let the state reps go first, please. It's gonna be associated.
Yeah, hold that up. You know, in just one additional.
Please, of course, John.
And I couldn't add to what Jimmy said about the facts, but I just know that in the 2020 fire, you responded for days before anybody else came in. And it made a fundamental difference. And it completely blew up the reimbursement system. Handle that, and we worked really hard until that got done. And when we were fighting the fight to reopen the highway at Rock Creek, there was this whole issue of, oh, there'll be no first responders behind the line. We can't do this. You stepped up together with other first responders in a way that it allows us to say that isn't true and that's filled open and perfectly. So it is a fundamental role in a disaster. I just thank you. Congratulations on.
On behalf of all of the people of Monterey County, we also honor you. And we were fortunate to be able to go down at the celebration itself and present you with the award. I'll just be able to say publicly, though, how wonderful it is to work so closely with Big Sur Fire. Your leadership is so appreciated. It just stands out among all others. Thank you so much.
Anybody else would like to say something in regards to Big Sur Fire? Please.
One thing that I think the community is well aware of in many ways, but it should be reminded of, is that Big Sur Fire, particularly since 1998, has always stepped in to really provide the basic leadership in the community during emergencies that range from the entire spectrum of road failures to fire. Because while we have this terrific group of representatives of all of our county, state, and federal agencies here today, most of the time they are not here at that moment where we have a disaster, and resources and the leadership to be that first response for that emergency is coming from Big Sur Fire. And it always has been the first agency to step right up, and a big thank you on behalf of the community, Matt. Thank you. Thank you.
Take a moment, I know I have a coordinator, but I just want to let everybody know how grateful I am for all your support. You know, Big Sur Fire can't do it alone. We do it in collaboration with our partners, Forest Service, Cal Fire, State Parks, CHP, and everybody. What we really couldn't do, we do without your support. It makes it easy for me to be up here and see the activity on behalf of the organization, but it's really a testament to the community strength and resilience. And for that, we thank you.
Before I move on to Nepenthe, Colleen, did you want to say something about the Wi-Fi? Great. Thanks, Colleen. Okay, moving on to the second cornerstone of this community's 75th anniversary of Nepenthe. Once again, I have a few comments here. The property that now hosts Nepenthe was acquired by the Trail Club of Holon in 1925, who constructed the building's first iteration, which was a cliffside log cabin retreat. Later in 1949, the cabin transitioned into a restaurant after it came into the hands of Bill and Lolly Fassett. Over the years, as tourism swelled, understatement, and the population of the Big Sur Coast grew, the restaurant evolved from a seasonal burger stand to a year-round cornerstone of this community. Nepenthe began as a family affair, and that legacy has continued to the present. Yes, right now, you not only have obviously Kirk there, but his son and girlfriend are back for the winter, are back for the summer, and are working there as well. And the Fassets who are held a philosophy that beautiful places should be shared, and so began a business built upon the principles of community and generosity. And clearly, those are ideals which can easily be seen when you visit Nepenthe today. The Fassets were known to feed visitors who couldn't afford to pay and let travelers work in exchange for a meal and sleep in the restaurant after closing. We only wish that was the case today. But today, Nepenthe still gives back to this community by donating 10% of its annual profits to charities and offers grants and sponsorships to local nonprofit organizations, focusing especially on causes that aid children, the environment, health and safety, and the arts. Beneficiaries include community institutions like Big Sur Fire, the Big Sur River Runs, and the Big Sur Health Center. They provide the community with jobs of first-time employment for so many of Big Sur's use. I'm sure there's plenty of people out in the audience or who are listening today that had a stint at Nepenthe. And they were one of the first to provide workforce housing in this community in an area with such limit affordable housing options and with some of the most beautiful views as well. And most importantly, they provided a sense of family for so many here in the Big Sur region, down to throwing everyone a birthday party to what used to be the legendary monthly sign parties. I just heard that tradition, though, is coming back in June with the Geminis. So it is my honor to once again recognize Nepenthe for, like I said, being such an important part of this community, not just this year, but for 75 years and so many more years to come here at Big Sur. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
So great to honor an anniversary that's older than me, finally. And one thing, once again, Jimmy laid it all out. But I think one thing sometimes people in Big Sur don't realize is the legend that exists outside of Big Sur about many things here. So I think we were doing one of our first Zooms when I was in the Senate. Kirk was on it. And when we got off, my chief of staff said, that was Nepenthe. He was so excited. And it just didn't even occur to me that that's the case. And that the assembly has their annual fundraiser at Pebble Beach. I was at it 15 years ago. I came down to have lunch at Nepenthe, and there's the speaker's press secretary saying, I've never been. This is amazing. I'm going to tell everybody all about it. And so, and I have a very old long sleeve Nepenthe t-shirt. And I wear it sometimes walking around the Capitol. People point and people comment. And it's clear that there's this connection that is outside there. And as I have been through more disasters than I can count in Big Sur, the interesting thing is talking to Kirk, and one of the first things that comes up is his employees and how he's thinking, whether they're trapped in or out, or in the fire in Soberanes about whether they were going to have time to get out if they stayed, and advising them exactly what was ahead. And it was clear that he was thinking of his employees right at the top all the way. So this is an anniversary for so many different things. And the Senate does a slightly different thing than the Assembly. They deign to let the senator sign in the Senate. Here we have a joint legislative resolution that is signed by both Dawn Addison and myself to recognize Kirk and Nepenthe for the 75 years. Congratulations.
Well, if I could just say one thank you on behalf of my family.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of wall space.
Obviously, I didn't rise to the occasion quickly enough. But on behalf of the County of Monterey, we want to wish you as well. Congratulations on your 75th anniversary. May you remain perched high above the Pacific and shadowed by the majestic Santa Lucia's for another 75 years. You're a mecca for travelers and guests, and so many people appreciate it. And while I present this to you, I want to also just give my personal thanks, because it isn't just you. It's not just the Ambrosia Burgers and the Moscow Mules, although I must admit, I'm carrying a few of them forever. I just want to say that your family for decades and for generations has really been leaders in this community. And when things all look grim, the fact that you remain open and that you're able to let people in has just really been a hallmark. As the others have said before, I travel around the world. And when I talk about Big Sur, that place is up on the hill. And it's always spoken of with such regard. So thank you so much. And I really do appreciate all your leadership in every aspect.
For Kirk, anybody else?
The floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, thank you everyone, Congressman Panetta, Senator Blair, Civil Member Addison, staff. But to the larger community, on behalf of the family, one of the things I always like to share with all of our guests and anyone who's interested in Pepe is that while we're a family restaurant in terms of our family that I grew up in, we have 13 families who've had up to three generations working in our in the business or contributing to the building of the business or maintaining the property. So it's really, I hope we all have found it to be a wonderful community enterprise that we're blessed to be able to be stewards of. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back in the day, a server and whoever was serving them would make enough money to buy some land in the house that they serve. And a lot of people, single moms who work at the company, actually, so that's pretty wonderful.
Kirk, how do the Outlaws look this year?
Well, Angus is still making it out there. So
Okay.
as long as he can stand at the end of the game, we're looking good.
Go Rangers.
Just checking. All right, moving on to regular public comment. Once again, please raise your hand. I will call on you. And again, I have the timer. We'll have a 3-minute public comment period. And Colleen, are we making everybody go to the microphone? How do you want to do it? Okay, if you have a public comment, why don't you stand up, move to my right side of the room, get in line in front of this microphone and say your piece.
I give it.
You could, prior to starting, just please state your name. for the
My
record.
name is Dana Carnazzo, and I'm the president of Bixby. Have been able to say a thank you to, where, do we have CHP and sheriff here? Oh, it's really, is that John over there? Okay, it's really made a difference. This isn't even on, but I'm loud. It's really helped, and it's been wonderful. When John is up at the bridge, he's more polite than many of us, and just his presence there. And as people road, he says, "Remember to parallel park." And then when it gets jammed up going in there, it's up there, wave people right through. So it truly does work having a presence there. And I really appreciate him taking that time because he has to answer the same questions over. And also he lets them know, someone says, "Oh, can I fly my drone here?" You can fly it over, the land, but not over the sea. And so that really makes a difference for a few hours, at least a few hours in the afternoon on the weekends. And I appreciate wherever that money can make that happen. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that green light on that microphone? Understood. Exactly. Thank you. Okay, just making sure it's on. Thank you, sir.
My name is Matt Glazer. I'm the executive director of Teach-Ins. It's my day job. I also serve on the board of Big Sur Fire, the Big Sur Fund, in honor of what's involved on the advisory board. I'm also the president of Captain Cooper Parents Club. We're ready for the last day of school today. My wife is the family nurse practitioner at Big Sur Health Center. My mother-in-law is the executive director of Big Sur Health Center. My father-in-law is a retired state park ranger. My wife grew up in Nancy Malera, and I'm the proud parent of two young children, 9, almost 9, and 5. This year, Carmel Unified School District in November, and this will be the first time that Carmel Unified School District will subdivide its district by trustee area. Trustee area number 4 includes the Big Sur area from Anderson Canyon all the way to a little piece of town east of Highway 1 and west of Tamer Road, including Colorado Canyon, Rivera Road, and a little bit across from the middle school. I intend to run for that seat in November to represent the area and to step into that position. Carmel Unified School District is desperately in need of some leadership and of some new thinking. And I'm very excited to participate in this kind of first new big change, and also to represent kind of the first time since Frank Pinney, whenever that was, represent the Big Sur area on the school board. So keep your eyes. My name is on the ballot. If you do not live on the in the district, you may see another name on the ballot. It may be a bit of a confusing election cycle for Carmel Unified School District because 3 trustee areas are being subdivided for a 4-year period, and there is 1 2-year seat that is. Again, my name is Matt Laser, and I intend to run for CUSD trustee area 4 for Big Sur. Thank you.
I know better than to cut this guy off, but if I can just make a comment, I chair the Education Budget Subcommittee, and if you want to work with Kate, I'd be happy to do a Zoom and give you a primer on education funding. Okay.
Hi, my name is Mike Kaplan, and I'm here today to give a quick update on the status of the California Coastal Trail. Thanks to the continuing unwavering effort of Senator Laird and his staff, like Kate Daniels, we are almost to the point of finalizing the alignment of the California Coastal Trail. This is an effort that started in 2007, and years of negotiations on the community-based planning process for designing the trail. And with the last piece of the puzzle, actually the second to last piece, on the north, with the help of the Big Sur Land Trust and the Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District, has been resolved, finding a way to get to the Carmel River over an easement that the Big Sur Land Trust has over private land. And that is part of the process, that the trail can use existing easements over private land, so we can do that. On the south, since we have the Forest Service here, I have tried in the past to get information on whether the Forest Service has an easement for the Buckeye Trail over private land on the south coast. And unfortunately, I haven't heard back that there is an easement. The Buckeye Trail crosses private land there, and we cannot use that part of the trail, even though it's a Forest Service trail on your maps, without knowing that there's an easement. And if you can provide that, that'd be great, because it would be superior than the workaround that we have found, which will take the trail down on the Soda Springs Trail, I think, down to the highway, and work along the highway shoulder instead of up on the Buckeye Trail. So the next step will be for me to finalize. I just recently got some 1-meter LIDAR files to use for the parts of the new trail to make sure that it will be usable in the real world, hopefully. And I'm tediously going over that, and the next step will be to send the executive committee and the local work group leaders a PDF copy and a Google Earth copy of the new trail portions for them to take a last look. Because once this goes out to the Coastal Commission, I think it'll be very difficult to redo things, change things. So that's it. Perfect timing. Thank you.
Let me just say, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
We are concerned because I have a 5-year clock ticking.
Yes.
I'm determined that this be moving and rolling in that
Right.
period of time.
Right.
And so we're trying to get to the end there, and Jimmy has been really helpful. We're setting up a meeting that's Kate, Jimmy, and I with the Forest Service to try to come to grips with any Forest Service issues there are so that we can work through it, because we won't be without money at the state level forever. We'll be back, and I will try to make sure that we have funding, and this is gonna also, and I don't want the agreement to unravel because we're taking forever implementing. I want to get it to move ahead, and
Right.
so we'll work on that, and I know that there's a real issue about how do we staff this or maintain it over time, and we want to be able to turn to
Right.
Ventana and some of the other organizations with the clear commitment and see the extent to which they can help, so we can move ahead with the project. So just time is of the essence.
Right.
But your work has been instrumental. And Kate suggested I go to the Middle East and make peace. You're doing this.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to say that this alignment is just one step in the process. The process is to write the master plan for the trail, which will require, as you said, saying which entities are going to maintain and police it, et cetera, et cetera. Forest Service will be part of that. Congressman Panetta, I've heard that you are helping. Thank you very much. And I will be quiet.
I have one question, sorry.
This isn't a question. That's all right. Thanks.
Hello, Heather Chapelet Lanier with a question probably to Caltrans. I've been noticing along the highway through the Big Sur Valley and to maybe about Little Sur River currently, there's dead vegetation around certain areas along the banks of the highway, around posts and culverts and things. So some spraying has been going on throughout the Big Sur Valley in the last few months to kill whatever vegetation's unwanted. And because I have grave concerns over products that exist in the world that get sprayed to kill things, I'm wondering if it could be known by the community what products are being sprayed to kill off unwanted plants along the highway. I'm just assuming because it's in Caltrans's easement that that's a Caltrans question.
It's up to you if you want to comment now or later.
I think if we want to, John Mulaney, Caltrans, I think if we want to chat after the meeting, we'll discuss further. I'll also mention that at the Byways Organization meeting, there is a invasive subcommittee where we talk about these things as well. So that'd be another place to take the topic up further.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right.
Morning, my name is Bruce Merchant. I'm just a resident of Garrapalos, about Palo, Colorado. And I'd like to raise a sensitive subject. I will apologize in advance. And some of you have heard this before. There are not enough restrooms along Highway 1 in Big Sur. Starting from the north, you could go to Point Lobos before you're even Big Sur, but of course, there's a day use fee to use the bathroom. Once you move south, if you go to Soberani's, there is a bathroom. There's no sign for anybody driving by to know it's there. It's kind of hidden back in the trees. Other spots along the way, certainly Bixby, very popular, no restroom. Hurricane Point, very popular, no restroom. There is restrooms at Andrew Malera, but again, you probably have to pay a day use fee to use them. And then further south of the Big Sur Valley. A good example, great example, the place we tell visitors to go visit and go see, Partington Cove and Partington Canyon. No restrooms. I have myself cleaned up various elements of human waste in all of those places. And I found a diaper at Partington Cove. Ideally, we would have some nice restrooms built looking like the Civilian Conservation Corps with stones and wood and all like that. That will take 10 years. We should have some immediate action for this problem because this has been a problem certainly as long as I've lived in Big Sur. Thank you very much.
I'm not even gonna try. Are you sure? Okay, all right. Hi, Tori Chesbro Buckles, resident. I want to address, I'm sorry, Sycamore Canyon, bring it back up. Now that the highway is open and Pfeiffer Beach is open, the amount of traffic has become a lot. I know in 2018 or 2019, the Forest Service contracted with someone to repair the road. They put up a lot of reflectors and did some paving, which probably 6 months later was gone. It's just that it's in as bad shape as it was before they did the work. With the increased traffic, it's just going to continue to get worse. And the other issue, Parks Management is doing a much better job about keeping the traffic flowing. However, at the head of the canyon on the highway is a huge public safety issue. This Memorial Day weekend was a big, well, it was an eye opener. It happens every time. But people just congregate there and stop traffic and they don't know where they should go. They don't know they can't go down, which causes a huge backup. And of course, as residents, it's hard to get in and out up there. So I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that that's still an issue. So thank you.
Good morning, committee, honorable Congressman Panetta and Big Sur community. I'm Nick Pasculi, the County Communications Director and Chief Public Information Officer. And I want to thank you on behalf of the County Administrative Office and our County Administrator, Sonia De La Rosa, for the amazing partnership that we have with the Big Sur community, all our state and federal partners to help service and get information and share information from the county to Big Sur. And on that vein, we did prepare some resources for the community that put on the back of the table, but we created a resources guide, a services guide to all the services of the county, and would invite the community and the organizations to take some back to their office. Supervisor Adams also has some in her office. And we also created a parks guide for our county parks to share with the community and hopefully get us all, communing together in our beautiful county parks. So thank you all very much for your support of the county.
Thanks. Nick, thanks, sorry. Thanks for being here and thanks for all you do for highlighting Monterey County. Appreciate it. Sorry.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. My name's Martha Deal and I'm here today. I just want to call out from this example. I want to shout out to my community. We have probably, best guess, maybe 1,500 residents in Big Sur, of maybe 1,000 homes in Big Sur. And you can look and see how many hats each individual is wearing in order to try to preserve the whole of this place. This is unusual. I've been in a lot of places in the world, and I think that the engagement and the multi-generational background, the holistic understanding of what Big Sur is, comes from the community here. It doesn't, we didn't federalize. It doesn't come from the federal government. It comes from the people here who keep that lifelong generational understanding of what's special about Big Sur. And you've just heard it. We heard from Nepenthe, we heard from the fire brigade. All those people all that depends on a community. So in order to host the millions who come, we have to have that vibrant community that is able to provide that continuity, that understanding, and that service. And I want to thank all of you people for coming and dealing with each of your individual parts, each individual contributions, whether it's state parks, whether it's the Coastal Commission, whoever it is, you're bringing your part. But what this forum is doing is trying to deal with and tend the whole of Big Sur. And so I'm hoping that all of you will take back that sense of agencies, people come and go generationally. We're seeing a generational change in a number of our agencies now. That memory of what happened before lives in the community and is shared by the community. And if we lose this forum, we lose that history and we lose the sense of place that everybody values so much. I just wanted to say that because it was such a good example, honoring some of our long-serving and long-existing businesses. And I want to thank my community for being who they are and keeping this place what it is.
Here, here.
Martha's always a hard act to follow. I'm Kate Daniels and I'm just supervisor-elect, but also planning commissioner who has had the opportunity to really study the Big Sur land use plan for the last 2 years with Commissioner Deal and with county staff, including Melanie Beretti. And I made some comments yesterday about how, you know, driving into town yesterday, driving into Big Sur yesterday, there was very few cars on the road. And the example of this campground here in this park being full, and that could be up to 1,500 or so people, perhaps even more. And you didn't see the impact on the highway. It didn't mean people were pouring onto the highway. Each of these campsites are self-contained and it's a certain type of visitation that doesn't impact the highway, and how that is part of the plan. That's an example of the Big Sur land use plan working. And what I woke up this morning thinking about is how the Big Sur land use plan really has to always be taken as a whole. And that perhaps where we've gotten into trouble is when entities take a look at one policy like public access and look at it in isolation without understanding things like Highway 1 capacity and the importance of preserving the 2-lane highway and how we make all development decisions based on the impact on Highway 1. And it reminded me of an experience I had with my husband on the flip side of actually being in a visitor serving unit, being in one of the cabins that are here in Big Sur just before the pandemic. And it was in the middle of winter. We paid a lot of money for that cabin, but it was his birthday. And so we came down. There was a festival of some sort during the day, the Mushroom Forge or something. Big Sur River Inn was having a big event. We had a great time. But that evening we were thinking about going out to dinner. And that is something that you do when you're in a cabin. Unlike being in a campsite, you get in your car and you drive to a restaurant. And again, it was January, dead of winter. And we started at Deachin's and they were full. And then we knew Nepenthe would be full, so we didn't even try. And then we ended up, you know, driving up to Ventana thinking, well, maybe we'll really go big and have dinner at Ventana. They were full. They couldn't accommodate us. We did find somewhere to eat, but that was a sign of the plan being out of balance, right? So what's happening where the visitor serving units and the visitation to Big Sur is out of balance? And I brought up short-term rentals as one example yesterday, where, you know, this is a type of visitation, unlike camping, that requires going to and from your house, leaving your house and going to a beach, to the river, on a hike. And it's really more akin to a visitor serving unit. And so I just wanted to end by saying, read the plan as a whole, understand the plan as a whole, because I think perhaps one of the places we've been getting in trouble is when we look at one policy or one part of the plan in isolation, and it doesn't work that way. Thank you.
Oh boy, I got to get up here sooner because following Martha Deal and Kate Daniels is a tough act to follow. The great turnout, one of the better Bismack turnouts I've seen. And maybe it's a sign that, you know, this is a critical time in Big Sur right now. The pressures on Big Sur are great. The land use plan update which is going to guide the future of what Big Sur looks like. And it's just a very important time. My name is Marcus Foster. I am a resident of Big Sur. I am on the Big Sur LUAC, and I am the co-founder of Keep Big Sur Wild. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of Keep Big Sur Wild. We're basically just a group that's trying to protect the land use plan and protect access to this highway. We get the misconception that we're somehow anti-tourist. I'll give an example of a local paper that brought up Keep Big Sur Wild. And it says, you know, Keep Big Sur Wild recognizes the international treasure that Big Sur is, yet they don't want to have further accommodations or rooms to accommodate the visitors from all over the world. And this is such a critical importance of why the land use plan has a cap on development. Recreational development, commercial development, residential development is before the land use plan was, the final draft was finished in 1980, there was traffic studies done paid for by the Coastal Commission that looked at carrying capacity, looked at future projections, and that's why they put limits on all these things. We at Keep Big Sur Wild have shown factual evidence to the county that we're over the 300 allowed units from when the draft of the land use plan was completed in 1980. Submitting factual evidence of 305 units, VSUs. Since that time, we actually think it's actually up to 314 because there's 9 approved rooms here in the state park. And to explain why this is so critical and why the land use plan is not, you know, we feel is not being followed in the policies, the institutional memory of the intentions of the plan aren't being followed, is causing all this congestion on the highway. The county believes that there's possibly 200 more VSUs that can be built in Big Sur. Let me tell you the impacts of what that would have on this highway. Post Ranch has 40 rooms. They have over 200 employees. Ventana has 60 rooms. They have over 250 employees. So putting in 200 more visitor serving units in Big Sur is going to be about 1,000 employees, 200 visitors doing multiple trips on the highway. You're talking about 1,200 cars a day on the highway. This is why this is so critical on an already over congested highway. And Keep Big Sur Wild, also just to get off a different point, we're trying to save Big Sur and make it affordable for people to come and camp here. You know, we've got private campgrounds that families have been coming for generations, enjoying the wilderness and outdoor activities. And we're seeing this conversion of RV campsites into high-end glamping park model units for up to $1,300 a night. So Keep Big Sur Wild is trying to emphasize that turning a campsite into a room, which would take 10 times as many employees as a campsite does and you're going to need more employee housing, more infrastructure, and you're going to take away the affordability for people to come down and enjoy nature in Big Sur. I think that is it, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm, as Congressman Panetta acknowledged earlier, Annie Notoff. I've been on the Coastal Commission for about a year now, and I just wanted to say thank you to the community and to Supervisor Adams for hosting us last night. My fellow commissioner, Coastal Commissioner Justin Cummings, who's a supervisor in Santa Cruz County and is the local representative for the Central Coast District, and I were able to meet with about 50 people, I think, last night, and heard a lot of some of the same things you're hearing tonight, and also some other more coastal specific things. But it was a great opportunity to meet with so many people. And I wanted to echo what Martha said, is that just the percentage of engaged citizens in the community is really impressive and a testament to how much people really care about where they live and how it's managed. So I just wanted to say thank you for hosting us, and it's an honor to have the responsibility to work with all of you to keep Big Sur, and, you know, work to have that balance so that we don't love Big Sur to death. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Beck, resident of Big Sur. I have two things, actually. I noticed that the next meeting is in September. And so right now the pampas grass is growing. And by September it will have bloomed. And more likely than not, if past is prologue, there will be more areas covered than any other year in the past. There are areas of Big Sur that no longer can hold the plants and the animals that have for thousands of years been in Big Sur because they've become a monocrop of pampas grass. Caltrans seems to refuse or to put off or to push it someplace else to do anything in the Caltrans right of way. And it's not happening at the Big Sur Byways organization. I wish it would, but it's not there yet. I'd also like to talk about the land use plan. Coming off of what Marcus said, he said it well. Big Sur, unlike most places in the world, is really a land use plan based on no growth. Oddly enough, you know, out in the world, supply and demand, you open a donut shop and it goes well, and you open another donut shop, and at a certain point, you've satisfied demand. No more donut shops. Maybe they'll start to close even. In Big Sur, the more rooms you supply, the more services you supply, only increases the demand, doesn't diminish the demand. It's not possible to meet demand, but it does increase supply. So I would urge everybody to take a look at that. So the glamping sites, all of that is a second factor where we're making Big Sur unaffordable for the average person. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm David Witkowski. I'm the Senior Advisor for Broadband to the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. I just wanted to give a quick report on what we're doing in the follow-up to the Broadband Roundtable that we hosted here a while back, or Congressman Panetta hosted here a while back. We are continuing to follow up on that with engaging with ISPs, internet service providers, to figure out how we can bring more broadband into the area. I want to recognize Kyle Evans from Bismack, who's been instrumental in providing information to the ISPs. We've hosted several calls to get details from him and to figure out how we can work through some of the challenges. Of course, we have right-of-way, we have terrain, topography, we have coastal commission. So there's kind of a three-dimensional chess going on here and figuring out how we're going to get to a plan. I want to recognize that two of our ISPs are here. Etheric and SurfNet are both here today. And thank you both for the engagement. They are putting together some thoughts right now into how we move forward into creating a plan, and then we're going to have to figure out how we fund it. But we are progressing. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you, council, community, for this moment to comment. I'm Melissa Rendon. I'm with C Monterey, the countywide destination marketing organization. And it's been out in newsletters from CABS and the chamber, but I just wanted this opportunity to let everybody know that we're having a community input forum June 13th at the Monterey Conference Center at 6 p.m. And I welcome anybody to come and be involved in the discussion on tourism across Monterey County. And there is a resident sentiment survey currently out, and you can find that link at tinyurl.com/mcsurvey24. We value your input, and we'll use that to kind of help shape our strategic roadmap moving forward. So thank you.
Melissa, please repeat that.
Yes, tinyurl.com/mcsurvey24. Oh, on the survey?
No, she wants to speak again.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
I'll make it only 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm always very quick. I'm Dana Carnazzo. I'm the president of Bixby Canyon Corporation. Are you Caltrans? Oh, you didn't have your sign. And so Caltrans and Coastal Commission, when they do the next iteration of what to do around Bixby and Yellow Coast Road, I want you to find it in your heart to be a little more open to some sort of radical ideas that might be visual, that so that we can keep some safety going on. And Monterey County, I would love it if you would send someone down to pick up all the poop paper. I used to do that, but I realized it was, as Martha Deal said, pathogens from around the world. So, I would like to know what county and Caltrans and Coastal Commission, because you guys, you're the guys that can make something like that happen there. It isn't just for us at Bixby. It's just, as we all know, it's untenable. So at some point, I would love to hear back. And my email is bigsurdana@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from anybody, and I'm open to talking. Another thing, the residents of Bixby go on the Old Coast Road from the highway all the way down to the canyon, and we clip pampas grass fronds every year. We can't quite pull the whole things out, and we stuff them in big garbage bags and take them to the dump, not to be composted, because then there'll be more of them. But it's a tiny thing. And our own properties, I have a backhoe come like every 4 years and dig out any big pampas grass they got going. And then every year, I engage some strong young person to go and dig out all the tiny ones. So it's a really physical thing. And like those spider backhoes, any kind of backhoe that went along the highway could just pop out so many of them. That would be wonderful. So help us be a little more broad-minded about making a visual thing. County, please grade our road, because it never happened. It only happened up from the highway to the knoll. And that would be really wonderful. And
Thanks, Dana.
no more scoldings. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else at the mic, we appreciate that. And well, once again, let me highlight something that my former Carmel Padre said, Marcus, in regards to the amount of people that are here. It is very impressive, even though, and thanks to the audiovisual people that are here, you could stay at home and watch this. The fact that you're here means a lot to all of us. So I really appreciate you showing up, even though you had the option to stay at home with us. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Moving on, new business, agenda item number 5. We are going to hear from Galen Call, who is going to speak on the Big Sur Fund in memory of Weston Call.
Thank you, Congressman Panetta. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be on the agenda today. I'm just going to speak for 5 minutes. I wanted to come here today to primarily just speak to those who live here. My name is Galen Call. I am Weston Call's mom. I'm here today to speak briefly on the Big Sur Fund in memory of Weston Call. I want to share its history and its mission and answer any questions that might arise. The original fund was named the Weston Call Fund for Big Sur, which started shortly after Weston passed in August of 2018. The intent was to support the nonprofits in Big Sur community, those which he loved and supported through donations made to the fund. My husband Brian and I originally were called donor advisors to this fund, which we established under the umbrella of the Community Foundation for Monterey County, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. In 2019, we merged the fund with the successful fundraising efforts of David Fink and Kirk Gaffel to become one expanded fund, still named the Weston Call Fund for Big Sur, and now it includes a disaster relief fund for donations and directed fundraising. An advisory council was included too, categorically making us a special purpose fund of the Community Foundation. Our group of advisors includes Sharon Carey, Frank Pinney, Matt Glazer, Kirk Gaffel, Jen Haydu, Jeff Kraft, Brian Call, and me. We provide oversight, we raise funds, define grant-making priorities, and recommend grants to benefit Big Sur. Andrew Call is Weston's brother. He is responsible for the social media aspect of the fund, and he works in collaboration with the Community Foundation. Love Big Sur is the Instagram handle. The website is lovebigsur.com. One of the many intentions behind Andrew's social media effort is to help tell the story of where funds are going and the specific areas helped by those nonprofits. The mission of the fund is to provide sustainable, impactful, supplemental funding to nonprofit organizations benefiting the residents of Big Sur and to build resources for disaster relief. Since the fund was created, we have distributed over 113,000 to non-endowed funds to numerous local nonprofits here in Big Sur. Since the fund was created, the Disaster Relief Fund has distributed over 470,000. In 2022, I had a dream. And in that dream, Weston said to me verbatim, "It is time to create a $2 million endowment side to the fund." I, unlike most of you, did not know the meaning of the word endowment. I came to understand that the power of an endowment lies in the fact that, unlike other kinds of funds, contributions made to it are permanently invested and grow over time. If an endowment grows large enough, individual contributions to the fund stretch farther via this growth, and the endowment can give sustainability year after year to Big Sur nonprofits. With Weston's $2 million dream, the endowment would immediately result in an estimated $100,000 annual distribution to Big Sur nonprofits, like clockwork, year after year, and it grows, so the distribution would grow too. In 2023, it became clear to me that the fund name needed to change, primarily to create a broader reach, a larger audience who will want to contribute to the fund because of their love for the area and because they believe in the fund's mission, as well as the sound business principles and practices of the Community Foundation. The fund remains named in Weston's memory, and the title speaks to the world. The Big Sur Fund in memory of Weston Call. I have brought a few of these beautiful brochures that we are using in our primary ask to donors for contributions to the endowment. I'll leave a couple of these brochures here for you to look at in the back of the room. Thank you very much for your time. This morning, thank you so much. Please reach out with any questions to me, to Brian Call, any of the advisory council members who are here, or the Community Foundation. Thank you.
A quick comment. This is a comment of kindness and memory. I have known Galen and Brian for a while. And when Weston had just started the shuttle patrol that he had, shuttle business that he had in Big Sur, I was chatting with him and his parents approached us and he said to me, "Let me introduce you to my business partners." It was the sweetest thing ever. So just know that his memory remains in the hearts of so many of us always. And thank you for all that you do, not just in his honor, but for all of the people in Big Sur.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
If appropriate, I'm the advisor. Thank you.
Just, yeah, the mic for the people at home.
So again, Matt Glazer, I'm one of the advisors on the Weston Call Fund.
It is the spirit of Weston that drives this idea. And for those that don't know, because I know there are people that are new here, Weston was a dear friend of mine. Weston and I really connected at 4 a.m. sitting at Little Sur in my car waiting to run a leg of the Big Sur Marathon. And he told me about his vision for a shuttle service to alleviate traffic on Sycamore Canyon Road. He had a vision. He believed in Big Sur and the celebration that drives it. The conversations that happen at the community level when it comes time of where the funds go, it shows what the real need is in Big Sur. And there is a very real need. It is a miraculous structure that is named for the spirit of someone who cared so deeply. So I sit on this advisory board with a specific intention to continue the dream and to continue to contribute to things like Big Sur Park School, to the fire brigade, to the health center, to arts initiatives, to things that haven't even been created yet. Like Martha said, this is the vision of what's possible when community comes together. And when there is a consistent access to funds, it is a beautiful thing because we can say yes. Keep Big Sur Wild received one of its first grants from the Weston Call Fund that breathed some life into their brand new mission. So with community involvement and with belief and with focus and an understanding, a lot of things can get bridged. And that was Weston's calling. And that's what I'm called to say here. So stay aware of it, contribute if you can, and also get involved, spread it out, and bring forth things that we may not even know that need to be involved. It's a really beautiful thing. It's the crux of Big Sur. I really see it. Thank you.
Matt, don't take this as an opportunity to speak as much as you do, but I love when you speak. Any other comments or questions? Moving on to the second item of new business, and that is from the County of Monterey Housing and Community Development regarding coastal ADU ordinances.
And if I may just do a brief introduction.
Yeah.
So I'm Melanie Beretti with, no, not at all. Oh, I didn't tell Edgar I was doing this either. Oh, no. So I'm Melanie Beretti with the Housing and Community Development Department. And so Edgar is one of our assistant planners. And he's a new face down here in Big Sur. I don't know that he's done much on our coastal area.
Yeah, this is my second time here.
For in terms of his official capacity. And so I just wanted to really thank him and just give him a brief introduction. He's been working on our accessory dwelling unit ordinances, trying to bring those forward both for inland and are focusing on the coastal zone, but also needed updates to be consistent with state law in the inland areas. And so and Edgar really comes to us with a real keen focus to bring to our long range planning team, helping us really coordinate our program on community outreach, bilingual outreach, multilingual cultural outreach. And so I really just also take this opportunity to just say, any ideas that you all have before Edgar leaves, I think we've got a good key on how to reach and work with the community, make sure we're getting out in the community as we're working. But any additional ideas or suggestions or groups or individuals that can help us reach further when we're doing our outreach for our various different efforts, please work with them. So I know that was long, but I think it's important. I really appreciate that that's what Edgar brings to our team as well. With that, I'll hand it over to him to talk about accessory dwelling units.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Good morning. My name is Edgar, like Melanie mentioned. Thank you for that.
The microphone, just to let you know, Edgar, the microphone isn't for us.
Oh, okay.
Speak up.
Okay.
Thanks.
Awesome. I think I can speak up a little bit. Yeah. That way everyone can hear me. So thank you again for the introduction, Melanie. So as many of you guys know, state and planning law governing accessory dwelling units or ADUs or junior accessory dwelling units, also known as JDUs, has been updated multiple times over the coming years. The updated legislation includes standards for where local governments may allow, disallow ADUs or JDUs, the kinds of development standards that local governments can impose, such as structure, height, setbacks, building site coverage, and minimum parking requirements, and other objective standards. Next slide, please. And if I could direct your attention to the screen, I have a presentation prepared. I'm more of a visual person, so I think it helps to have some bullet points up on the screen. So the intention behind state laws, ADU regulations, is really to increase affordable housing stock and streamline the process for these units. When local governments, I want to note that when local governments don't have a consistent ADU ordinance with state law, the provisions of the state apply. Here in Big Sur, it's a special circumstance since the Coastal Commission is also at the same level as the state. So there are some coastal resource protections that still apply for ADUs, even if we don't have an adopted ADU ordinance. Next slide, please. So just to provide some background, in 2015, there was amendments to the county's ADU regulations. Following these updates to the housing law. This included updates to the Big Sur land use plan, the Carmel area land use plan, and the Del Monte forest land use plan. And it removed the caretaker regulations and in their place, placed the accessory dwelling units. It also updated our coastal implementation Title 20 ADU regulations. And that has been adopted and certified. And as of today, those are the current regulations that exist in our Title 20 in our county zoning. So in 2020, amendments were adopted. At the time, staff picked up due to further updates to housing law, staff adopted and updated the ADU regulations. And at the time, these were adopted by the Board of Supervisors, but were not certified by the Coastal Commission. So essentially, here in Big Sur or in the coastal area, it's special circumstances where if an amendment to the coastal regulations is not certified by the Coastal Commission, it essentially goes null or it does not go into effect. So this brings us to where we're at today with the amendments in response to state law and the Coastal Commission proposed modifications that were proposed in 2020. This is why we're updating the regulations as of today. Next slide, please. So the approach for this process, it really was to update the ADU and JDU regulations in a manner that harmonizes both the state law, housing laws, with the Coastal Act. This is for the protection of coastal resources while also reducing the barriers to constructing JDUs and ADUs and helping promote more affordable by design coastal housing. Next slide, please. So before I briefly want to provide some context on the distinction between ADUs and JDUs. So accessory dwelling units, they can be up to 1,200 square feet. These units can be attached or detached from the single family dwelling, and they provide independent living facilities for kitchen, sanitation, and sleeping for a family, depending on the room size. The rooms in the unit, they could accommodate a family. And the junior accessory dwelling units, these can be up to 500 square feet. It's different from an ADU in the fact that these units are built fully within the walls of a single family home. So it doesn't increase the existing footprint of the home. So say you want to convert one of your master bedrooms into a JDU, and if it's under 500 square feet, it would be considered JDU. So these units may share sanitation and kitchen facilities. Next slide, please. So I want to point out some key highlights with state ADU regulations. And I really want to point your direction into the first kind of bullet point here is that ADUs up to 800 square feet at a state level, these units are considered less than impactful. These ADUs are also known as state exempt ADUs, meaning that they are not subject to lot coverage, floor area ratio, open space requirements, or minimum lot size requirements. However, there is special limitations where the county can preclude these ADUs, and that is due to inadequate water supply and quantity and quality of water. Other key state regulations that were updated, so ADUs we cannot restrict ADUs on lot size requirements, density and unit caps. A lot of you've read the Big Sur land use plan. There's a couple limitations and unit caps that are existing today. And state law really wants to see each legal parcel have one ADU or may be allowed to have one ADU and one JADU. And sorry. Yeah. So additional development standards, ADUs can be up to 16 feet in height. They have a 4-foot side and rear setback, and then there's lenient parking requirements at the state level. Next slide, please. So for in an effort to harmonize it with our county-specific regulations, I want to highlight some county-specific regulations that will still apply to ADUs. So ADUs and JADUs will be subject to the review of environmental health department. They're reviewing for the quantity and making sure that the ADU or the JADU has enough water, quantity, and quality to serve all the units on the parcel. These units will not be allowed to be used as vacation rentals. And I know that's a big topic here in Big Sur. So county policies really want to address creating more affordable housing stock. So then there's also specific resource constrained areas where ADUs won't be allowed. So areas subject to the B8 zoning overlay, these are zones where county staff are aware of resource constraints, water, traffic impacts that are laid out in our zoning. So these areas you won't be allowed to build an ADU. Areas that have a adopted specific plan, unless the specific plan specifically says you may allow ADUs within that plan. Within the critical viewshed of the Big Sur, that's within the land use plan. And within this area, county staff saw that it really, in order to protect coastal resources and still comply with state law, this area kind of was restrained. So one thing I want to point out is JADUs will be allowed in all planning areas. And like I mentioned earlier, it's because they don't expand the existing footprint of the home. If someone builds a JADU and say your neighbor builds it, you kind of won't be aware of it unless you track the permit. It mostly has to do with conversion of walls in the already existing space.
Proposed county regulations updates. Some decisions haven't been made. These are what are in the draft proposed. So just for clarity for that, and that's why we're here today. So that's let you all know as these drafts move forward.
Next slide, please. So I want to go over the permit process for the for these ADUs. So and we took a tiered approach in the development of these staff, and we've been working with Coastal Commission staff in order to streamline the permit process, but also identify areas that potentially we can exempt certain types of ADUs from being required a permit and facilitate that whole process. So for example, for the exempt ADUs, these may include JADUs, attached or detached ADUs up to 800 square feet in an effort to address the state provision for the state exempt ADUs, conversion of habitable existing space in the single family dwelling. So one thing I do want to know is that even though these fall within a category of exemption, these units still have to be consistent with our local coastal program policies and coastal resource protection policies. So for example, if our attached ADU is built within, say, slopes of 30% or critical viewshed or environmental sensitive habitat, it would knock it out of the exemption and require more of a coastal development permit in order to balance that coastal protection policy. The next one would be the coastal administrative permits. These are really intended for ADUs over 800 square feet. So these would require a coastal administrative permit, and as long as these units are consistent with the local coastal program policies, they're minor, non-controversial in nature, they would be subject to this permit. The coastal administrative permit really decreases the impact on time, materials, and processing. It's important to note that these ADUs, coastal administrative permit for ADUs don't require a public hearing. And then finally, a coastal development permit, and this is when LCP policy triggers trigger this. So like I mentioned in the first part, if it's within environmentally sensitive habitat, if it's within slopes of 30%, there's positive archaeological resources on site, it would be subject to a coastal development permit. Next slide, please. So before I delve into the regulations for the Big Sur area, I want to recognize the broader comprehensive update to the Big Sur land use plan. Due to ADUs being state mandated, and they were separated out as a portion of that whole comprehensive update in order to streamline the process and be in compliance with state law. We've been working with the Big Sur Ad Hoc Committee in order to develop these policies and been doing outreach to that process to kind of pull this ADU regulations into a more faster pace timeline. So in the Big Sur, there's minor modifications that to the language that would encourage ADUs, JDUs as a way to providing low and moderate housing opportunities. I want to mention that in the 2015 updates, during that time there was a kind of we overwrote over the caretaker regulations, and at this time, staff recognized that caretaker regulations were really a housing type that was intended to be for employees who are working on site. So these units are deed restricted, so they can't be rented out to anyone in the public. Say someone is in need of any caretaking assistance, they may provide this unit for that purpose. If they have any security problems on their property and they need a unit to house the staff that are working on site, these units are really intended to be kind of that housing option for them. Next slide, please. So in the Big Sur land use plan, these are the regulations that would apply, and there's some distinctions between other coastal areas. So for example, ADUs can be up to 800 square feet. These units can be attached or detached. There will be no deed restriction on the parcel. And then JDUs will be the same as other coastal areas. So they'll be up to 500 square feet, fully built within the walls of the single family dwelling, no deed restriction, and then one may be allowed per parcel. So with the caretaker regulations, these units can be up to 750 square feet, and these units are detached from the single family. There will be a deed restriction placed on these units in order to provide for employee housing. And there is a 50 unit cap on these units. So essentially, parcels may be eligible for up to 3 additional units on their parcel if they meet all the requirements. So yeah, the next slide, please. So next steps. So this draft ordinance will be presented to the Planning Commission on July 10th. At that time, we'll be asking for a recommendation to go to the Board of Supervisors. At the Board of Supervisors, we intend to go in late summer. If everything goes well, we plan to submit to state HCD. There is a requirement that we, after the Board of Supervisors adopt the ordinance, within 30 days, we submit to state HCD for a consistency review. And after that, there's no timeline for when HCD kind of provides back comments or certification. And at that time, we plan to submit to the Coastal Commission for certification. Next slide, please. So with that, I think that concludes my presentation. I want to point out that we have a project webpage. I've provided a QR code. And if you want to get on our mailing list, please email me. My email is up on the screen. I do want to note that anyone who's on the email list for the Big Sur Land Use Plan Comprehensive Update will be notified about this, and any other Big Sur organizations that we have mailing list for. I'll make sure to send that email out to everyone. So with that, I think that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Questions or comments? Please, so, no routine. The mic, please. Mic to mic. We'll limit it to 2 minutes, please.
I won't need that long. I noticed that he said that they're not allowed to, oh, Sharon Petrosino Wilson. They're not allowed to be used for vacation rentals, but how will we stop that from happening? We've seen that happen before where there's been housing units and then they no longer use them for employees and then they use them for vacation rentals. So what's the mechanism to stop it from happening here again?
Very briefly, so just very briefly, so we are actively moving forward with our vacation rental regulations here in the county. And so really that enforcement would happen through our vacation rental ordinances, and I'll have a brief update for you.
Mike.
Hi, my name is Mike Kaplan. A couple points. One, if you look at a map of land over 30% slope in Big Sur, it is the vast majority of the land here. It's like 95%. And a lot of the land that is not over 30% slope is on the El Sur Ranch. Second point is I kept wondering what the permit fees would be, because I think once you're kicked into a coastal development permit, the application fee is $11,000. And I commonly hear people spending $50,000. $200,000 or more on paperwork. And it sounds like once you kick people out into the over 30% slope thing, it's going to be back to where we are now with so much money that the ordinary person cannot afford to build one of these. Thank you.
I think that there are some cost constraints, which is why we are trying to look at opportunities to have certain categories that could be exempt from the more costly permitting process while still being protective. So we do recognize that.
Yes, Peggy Goodale. Two things. One is just straight across with STRs, period. As soon as you have an STR, you lose housing. So I think needs to just be not happen in Big Sur, period. The other thing is, I understand in Aspen, people who have second, third homes are required to provide housing for local employees. So I thought that was a very good idea.
Steve Beck. I like all of this. I mean, we need housing, and this will help. Also, employee housing can be part of this thing, but as we've talked about a number of times today, integrating employees or whoever on all of the land is really useful for the community. The question I have is about caretakers units. Caretakers units for me have always been an odd piece of this thing. There are 4 restrictions, I think, for a caretaker unit. One could be security. One is the landowner needs physical help. That's a sort of thing. And the caretaker isn't allowed to work off of the land. They can only work on the land. And then the limit of 50. Why 50? In my neighborhood, the average property size is probably 20 acres, maybe a little bit more than that. So there's land available. Why limit it to 50? Why limit it to only being able to work on the land? And why limit it to essentially wealthy people that can afford to house an employee on their land? What about the rest of us?
To that, one part of this is it was an inadvertent deletion of caretaker units that previously had existed in the land use plan, which had that 50 unit cap. And so the 50 unit is simply restoring, going back to that original language and cap as it was in the original land use plan. The caretaker units are not exclusively required to work on site. And so I can't speak more specifically, and I will take that feedback back to review how our caretaker units are established to have more flexibility. It's intended to have an employment primary on site, but absolutely allows for offsite employment, recognizing families and others do. And it's really just a different type of housing. I think the concept, and again, we've worked with the ad hoc committee, the LUP updates with regards to ADUs was in collaboration with the ad hoc committee. The concept is we have accessory dwelling units, we have JADUs, and caretakers could be another unique particular type of housing that is deed restricted that must be an employer. So it was to be additive as an opportunity.
Briefly, please.
From 86, caretaker can be. When we started thinking about ADUs, this is the essence. Well, in 2015, companies that eliminated and incorporated into ADU. Why haven't we set it that way? Why not address that the ADU? I don't see how it adds anything. I don't see how it adds it. Except for somebody that's going to have ADU, the JADU, ADU, and the caretaker.
Good, we got it.
Absolutely input heard.
Thank
A quick question for planning. Speaking of the ADUs, so we own a 2.5 acre parcel that we live on where we have our house. Contiguous to our property, it's a separate parcel which butts up against ours. Is there any way to put a JDU on that without combining the two parcels?
I don't believe so. And if I'm incorrect, I will get your contact and I will follow up.
Martha? Okay. Got it. Great. Marcus, I thought you were going to speak. John's saying don't encourage. All right, seeing nobody else at the mic, no other comments or questions on this topic? Yeah. Great.
Yeah, just very briefly, I just wanted to say it's wonderful working with the county, specifically Melanie and Edgar on this. You know, from a coastal perspective, we think this is the right direction. Some, minor details still need to be hammered out about, exactly what's going to be exempt versus administrative permit and, maybe reducing what an administrative permit the fees are and the workload burden on the county is. We'll see, but this is, a good direction. One thing that we are thinking about, and, maybe there's nothing that can be done about this with respect to specifically, this ADU update, but, Big Sur is a really constrained place, if you want to build anything, both because of the land use plan and just because this is a place with a lot of hazards, a lot of steep slopes. It's just hard to build. And so when we do build and when we build new housing, we want to make sure that that housing is for the community, is affordable for the community, and, is affordable for employees who work in the community. And so, just keeping that in mind as we move forward with the ADU update, I think is important, and anything that we can do to incentivize the housing that is built on this very limited amount of area that we can build housing actually goes towards those communities.
Mike, 30 seconds.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, I
Oh,
just,
sorry.
as a resident here, I want to say I'm really happy with the direction that this is going as well. I think this is really what we need in this community, especially the caretaking units, which I may be disagreeing with others in the community, is that we have so many second homes here that are standing empty without a caretaker, but we have, teams of gardeners and house cleaners that are commuting from Seaside Marina, the peninsula, to take care of these homes. And if we had more caretaking units alongside those second homes, I think it would do a lot to improve our community and also to improve the quality of those properties themselves. Having a person on that property watching out for both, you know, trespassers, keeping the brush back, you know, making sure the rodents are not getting involved here. And like, you can't have an empty property in Big Sur. Every property needs constant maintenance and attention to detail, and having a human being actually living on that property is both providing more members of our community. We're increasing the number of students in our schools, the number of people that are involved with Big Sur Fire and our nonprofits. And I really commend you guys. I think this is great. I'm happy to hear that from both the Coastal Commission and the Planning Department. I like the direction you're moving.
Mike.
Yes, I just wanted to say that the name implies it being accessory, that there already has to be a residence on the property. And that if the goal is to get more housing in Big Sur, given the cost of getting that primary unit permitted and built, if you could apply the same rules to vacant land, instead of being accessory, they would be the primary development on the property. I think that will help create more affordable housing and more housing period in Big Sur. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members? Seeing none. Thank you, Edgar and Melanie. Appreciate that. Agenda item number 6, old business. An update on Nascimento Ferguson, otherwise known as Nasty Fergie, as Big Sur Kate says it, by the Forest Service. Chris Stubbs.
Right here, Congressman. Sure. So we want to thank our contractor for doing great work. They have demobbed after phase 1 of the project. Pardon me, they're demobbing this week. The road, they're completing their work. They are. The road will remain closed this summer as we work on phase 2 of the project, which is hazard tree assessment and removal. And we are working with Monterey County on signage for the road. Most of the signage is no longer there. End of report.
Correct.
It's coming along. Yes, sir.
Swimmingly.
It's coming along.
Fair enough. I'll take it. I'll take it. Any questions or comments? Nick.
Nick Pasquilli, County Communications Director. We did prepare some messaging for the public as well, residents as well as visitors and tourists, different messaging, obviously. So that has been sent to the members of the Bismarck Committee as well as other partners that the county works with.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus Foster. Yeah, great to hear that Nascimento, kind of a lifeline for escape in Big Sur, is almost there. Just referring to signage, just making sure that the county code of roadside camping, that's included in the signage. That became a really problematic area for illegal fires and camping on that road. The county ordinance was updated by the supervisors, and I'm assuming it expands not just Highway 1, but Nascimento Ferguson is a $1,000 fine to deter people from roadside camping in Big Sur. It's one of those things that continues to this day without any enforcement whatsoever. CHP has their hands full. They're not going to be going out in the middle of the night, but it's something that, on Memorial Weekend, there was probably a dozen cars camping, within a half mile of my house. And that's a super high fire danger area, as you know, and just making sure that signage dictates that and informs the public that you can't camp on Nascimento.
Can I take a minute to? So we've had a forest order prohibiting dispersed camping along that road. And I assume we would re-implement that order when we open the road.
Right, and is that a force order? Because it's not a federal road, it's a county road. Am I mistaken? Oh, county man, okay. I got you. And what is the fine compared to the county code? Yeah. I'm just curious. It's a growing issue, especially with the cost of camping in Big Sur now. I think we're just gonna be escalating. A lot of people that are gonna try to, disperse camp in areas where they shouldn't. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Please.
Hi, my name is Joel, South Coast resident. This is in specific to the Forest Service order that expires in September. I don't know if it's before or after the next BISMAC meeting, but I just want everyone to be aware that there is a larger conversation in BUM about dispersed camping, and I really want to make the distinction between roadside camping, which caused the closure on Nacimiento West, and the public's access to recreate traditionally in dispersed camping. I'm speaking in defense of that basically, and also want to ask how many law enforcement officers are going to be available to patrol that area of Nacimiento West? One.
Joel.
How many are traditional for that area, including like when Nacimiento Station is? Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Any other comments or questions? All right, next item is the Bixby Bridge Task Force, Mauricio from Assemblywoman Addis's office.
Thank you, Congressman. So like a lot of you already know, the Bixby Bridge Emergency Task Force was created in an attempt to find temporary and long-term solutions to fight the congestion that happens on Bixby Bridge. And this effort is co-led by our office and Supervisor Adams' office. And we are still continuing to work with key agencies, and all the parties involved have been super helpful. Some things that have been done, just to highlight a few, is Supervisor Adams' office actually established or put a sign up. It's an A sign that reads "No parking" on Bixby Bridge, and also our office has made sure that all agencies are well aware of the issue. Assemblymember Addis was actually in communication with both Coastal Commission and Caltrans to really make sure that they understand the severity of the congestion. We saw on Memorial Day how severe it can get and to the degree that it can get to. So we're still continuing to work, and we're just excited that all the parties are open to working together and finding a solution. Also, CHP expressed to us that they have been putting overtime hours as an option for the officers through a state grant, which Captain Troxel has expressed that they've been getting taken up. So we were excited to hear that. Also, one quick thing I on our visit yesterday from Supervisor Adams' meeting with Coastal Commission that they set up is that on Apple Maps there seems to be like a parking area on Bixby Bridge, and one of our kind of concerns is like that might lead to the public thinking there's an actual structure for parking. So one thing our office will do after this meeting is just reach out to Apple's government relations team and just ask them or relay our concerns that this might be a little misleading to the public. And I'm not sure if any other agency wants to chime in, but also I want to say thank you to C. Monterey for all their work in making sure that when visitors do come, they if they visit C. Monterey, they can see that Bixby Bridge is on there as, be cautious of the congestion.
Thank you. I'd like to add a couple of comments if I could. Number one, thank you so much, Mauricio, for taking the lead on this. It's really been great to work with you. Colleen from my team has been very pleased with how things have gone. Just two quick things. One, Colleen was working and was able to get Google Map to change that. So Google Map no longer shows a parking area at Old Coast Road, essentially, and Highway 1 or at the bridge. So if you guys are able to do Apple, that would just be fabulous. And then secondly, I just want to give a shout out of thanks to Marcus Foster for the video that he put together on the Memorial Day traffic. It was really good. And while the content is absolutely shocking, the video quality was really, really terrific. And so at any rate, we just want to say thank you so much for that. It makes a big difference to be able to show people. Yesterday, when we were at Bixby Creek Bridge and we had both Commissioner Notoff and Commissioner Cummings with us, you might know it was like the one day where it wasn't horrible, but it was a Thursday afternoon. So I think that probably took care of it. But at any rate, they both have been able to see the video and know what it really can be like. So I, again, all of this is thanks to you, Assemblywoman Addis, for pulling this forward.
Any other members of the task force?
No, sorry.
Go ahead. No, no,
I'm on the task force.
Your prerogative.
To hear you say it was shocking to see the cars, Mary, it's like to me, no, that's not shocking at all. That's normal. I don't know what the task force is doing, but going forward, I would suggest if it's not being done, I could be ignorant, but I don't know. On July 4th weekend on a Labor Day, to have highway patrol or sheriff up there when the cars are all going north and run them through that stoplight and then let a few southbound go. Excuse me, they've done that other places. They've done it at Rio Road, and that would help, in my opinion, my uneducated traffic opinion, alleviate a lot of that.
Sorry, can you repeat that to allow who to go through?
So if you have at the stoplight there, an officer, and he can speak to this, when it's backed up going northbound, and they do this at Rio Road, other places, they run a whole bunch of the cars through and then let some southbound, rather than this light letting a few here and a few there. 4th of July and Labor Day, plan on that, please.
Yeah, sorry, I see that Commander Troxel is here from Highway Patrol. And I don't know if you or the sheriff have any comments that you want to make, because they did have some time down there on Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if any of the people who are here today were the ones who were actually on site, but if there's any comments or anything that you'd like to.
We had close to, I don't know, 48% contacts during that period. So you have, Oscar and John that work down here as a resident for the city, right? So they can't be dedicated just to the Bixby Bridge. They actually have to go out and deal with traffic collisions. You can hear me? Okay.
For everyone on
All right.
Broadcast.
Yeah, you got it. So they're responding to everything out there, right? Crashes. We actually had a deceased individual out in Nasi Ferguson Road that they had to deal with. It took a lot of time, a lot of investigational effort there. Kind of some short-term things we're looking at is encouraging increase in parking fines as kind of like a short-term deal. So when we do write parking citations or unlawful things, it actually kind of hurts the pocketbook a little bit, right? And the word gets out, hey, it's expensive to do things that are illegal around Bixby Bridge. The kind of like a midterm goal is maybe shut down the parking on Old Coast Road. You know, that is a suggestion that we've made. And then long term is looking for parking and shuttle from the U.S. Forest Service area. Where was that one? Which I'm saying. The ranch. Brazil Ranch, right? So long term. But again, back to a midterm as we're working through with the task force to maybe do some additional enforcement effort through contractual obligations that you can do between CHP and the county, right? So I can add more enforcement effort, maybe on like a separate contract. So that's kind of what we can do. You know, looking at 4th of July, I'll move some grant funding, of course, to put some additional folks down here to kind of reasonably do all that kind of stuff. So I'm hearing you.
Thanks, Ian.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep. Hold on. Hold on. We got people in front of you. Sorry. Hold on. Wait.
No,
just
I can
stay
bring
there.
it back
Go-
over
go
there.
Bring the mic.
Oh,
Yes,
just
you
for
could.
him?
Yeah, hold on. Bring the mic back. Sorry.
Perfect, thank you. We want to make sure everyone online here.
There you go. Thanks, buddy. Do it.
Thank you. And if I could, I'm just going to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Andy Rosas. I'm actually the new county coastal commander for Monterey County. I've been with the Sheriff's Department now for about 3 months. Prior to that, I worked in the city of Marina for 23 years, and I am a lifelong resident of Monterey County, very aware of many of the things that happen in our county. With that said, I wanted to add to the Bixby situation that we've been talking about. We have been sending our deputies to come down and do patrols. In fact, the very first patrol I took on myself. That particular day, which was the holiday weekend that just passed a few weeks ago, I was able to come down and do 2 close patrols of that area. And yes, I was very aware of the problems that existed on that day. We did issue, or I did issue citations and gave multiple warnings. Our deputies, as available, as Ian Troxel mentioned, also have other responsibilities. It has been mentioned in this meeting before. We have 2, sometimes 3 deputies that are assigned to the coastal region, which includes all of Carmel and Carmel Valley. So when there are calls for service, those will take priority over the close patrols at Bixby. But we are making every effort to work with our partners down here in the Big Sur area to do patrols of that area. We support the ideas that the CHP is suggesting. But one other thing that I did want to bring up, and I mentioned to Mary Adams earlier, on the day that I was out there, Colleen was actually out there with us, and I pointed out that as somebody who travels internationally, I noticed that on that particular day, there were many people out there who were not English speaking. We had a lot of tourists. I know that we've done a lot to try not to promote Bixby Bridge locally or at the state level or even across the country, but that doesn't stop it from being promoted around the world. And we have a lot of international tourists that are coming who don't know what parallel parking only means. They don't know what the single roadway or single lane roadway sign means. And it's just foreign to them. It's something that we should consider and looking at international symbols and signs to try to help alleviate some of these problems, in addition to the ideas that are already being suggested. So with that said, we have been out there over the past 2 weekends. We've been able to do a total of 8 close patrols and issue multiple citations, multiple warnings. No secret, the CHP, I'm sure will agree. Unfortunately, while we're present, the problems tend to kind of disappear. And as soon as we take off, it all comes back. So we remain committed to helping help with this situation down at Bixby Bridge. Thanks.
Thank you. Alyssa, please.
Thank you. Yes, again, Alyssa Rendon with C Monterey. Seeing that Memorial Day weekend video, I mean, it's not a surprise because we were aware of the problem, but seeing it is disheartening nonetheless. It's not a good experience for visitors. It is a public health and safety issue, which is why, we've had the moratorium on Bixby Bridge promotion for over a decade, and we've encouraged our statewide marketing organizations to do the same. We want to remain being an advocate. So when we do promote Big Sur, because we do have wonderful businesses that, rely on hospitality and tourism, we make sure to be an advocate for Big Sur and how to visit responsibly and sustainably, because if we don't, who will? So we'll continue to work with the task force. Thank you to Assemblymember Addis's office as well as Supervisor Adams for organizing and bringing us all together. So we'll remain to be a partner and community advocate. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Diana Ballantyne. I'm the General Manager of Fernwood and Secretary for the Chamber of Commerce. And I just would like to make a request that I am fully aware and so concerned about the Bixby situation and realize that this is like untenable and needs to be fixed. But if it's possible to separate the words over tourism of Big Sur from a traffic hazard and other issues, because it may not be apparent to all of you that are looking at that, but the Big Sur businesses are at, I haven't seen this kind of occupancy since like, never, like 30 years I've been in this business, and we have less campers than ever. So it's really bizarre, but it's true. I promise you it's true that the actual tourists are not making it past Bixby Bridge. They're not, like, our businesses are suffering. So if we can just separate the over tourism, because that's hurting Big Sur's businesses when we hear that over and over, that people are like, yeah, I hear it's a zoo down there. And we're like, there's nobody here. It's like crickets. So I'm just asking if you can really focus on it being a traffic hazard and an Instagram disaster instead of it being over tourism, because it's really not helping our business community.
Thank you, Diane. Martha.
Thank you, Martha Deal. And speaking right now is from the Byways Organization perspective, although we haven't had a meeting in a year, so I don't know exactly what the Byways Organization itself might want to say because we lack the support to be able to do more than that. Byways, when we had the meeting that came up with the idea of the emergency task force, made a really conscious decision based on that testimony that we would choose this particular hotspot because it had high visibility and because of its ability to like speak out about the larger issue. And as we talk about the emergency task force work at Bixby, I want to make sure we don't lose track of the other hotspots that need additional attention, particularly if we're going to solve this problem with the help of our law enforcement community. We don't want to pull those people away from Soberanis. Soberanis is arguably more dangerous than the Old Coast Road, for example. I mean, people got to deal with Point Lobos. We got to deal with Garrapata. We got to deal with Julia Pfeiffer Burns. So the reason that the task force chose one is because you got to start somewhere. But I want to keep reminding everybody that we have to have a way to scale up to deal with the other hotspots that are also causing these health, safety, and transportation issues. So as we go along, I'm really impressed that we're able to find some funding for additional patrols. But of course, the patrols are stuck in the same traffic. They can't then run up to Soberanis and help somebody up there. So we need something scalable. We need something larger in general. We can't depend on a one-time, let's fix Bixby. We got to look at how are we going to have a program that's going to provide the support for each of those choke points at the times we know that they're going to be a problem. We have a great tool. CABS has given us the information that we need to make intelligent choices about how to deploy our resources by providing consistent, every 15 minutes traffic numbers. We know how many people in, how many people out every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year since last August. So we're going to be able to tell you exactly how many people came down the day that the closure was opened. We can do that now. We have also on there the results of the CAB surveys that they had all of us volunteers come and talk to the people, come and count the people crossing the road. That information is available on the Byways website. Those are tools that we could use to help us look at the larger problem. And I want to just not lose the larger problem as we focus on this particularly egregious example and ask everybody's help in thinking of how we can come together with some kind of bigger solution than that. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. John Olenek, Caltrans, and I get to be on the emergency task force. I'm also a Byways committee member. And we've talked about the enforcement, we've talked about the education, and we talked about, we continue to talk with the engineering. We discuss all those during the task force meetings. There's also, I was reflecting on this as the commenter was talking about the over-tourism comment. We're really needing to also look at, and whether you want to call it mid or long-term, but it's managing the demand, right? So if the demand is coming and is landing itself at the key spots along the way, and we've actually already studied and identified those key spots, then part of our role should be also discussing how do we manage that demand? Do we help see the long-term vision of a shuttle sort of service? Something, but managing demand maybe is also a way to think about in addition to just, as a commenter said about, not just saying tourism.
Surprise. It's Dana Carnazzo. I'll be quick again. To piggyback on Diana's words, I hear over and over again from local people, I mean, from Monterey, Santa Cruz and San Benito counties up to San Jose, that they wouldn't even think of coming to Big Sur anymore because the traffic is so bad. So there is a difference between traffic and tourism, and one affects the other. So I understand that. My second thing is something I heard from, well, I won't name names, but that it kind of helped, the stoplight kind of helped coming southbound because it only lets about 25 cars through at a time. And so by the time the next thing goes, those 25 cars have had time to disperse. So I've noticed that myself. It's more at the end of the day the afternoon when people are coming back, when it really gets ground up there. The third thing is, wouldn't it be so much less expensive to have, I'm sure they don't call them meter maids anymore, but just a part-time traffic enforcement officer? I mean, and if it was someone there at the head of Old Coast Road, wouldn't it be a county employee? Would that be a county employee? Wouldn't it have to be a sheriff? Okay, Jimmy, I see your head shaking. What? tell
No,
me.
I don't need to comment. I'm not, that's above my pay grade, but I just could imagine that there are other issues in regards to that type of enforcement where you're putting that person in certain situations that would take a little bit more skills.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it couldn't be me because we would all be having a riot up there or something. But my husband, when we get to Bixby Bridge, my husband often presses the child lock on our windows.
Understood.
And a person with a little bit of a uniform, a meter maid uniform, whatever they are, standing there. And when John's there, he answers all the questions and he said, oh, by the way, parallel park. So it would be so much less expensive, I would imagine, a part-time parking person than a sheriff. So I move that we hire some. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carnazzo.
Good afternoon now. Good afternoon. My name is Rob O'Keefe. I'm the president CEO of C Monterey, and I just wanted to throw a couple of comments in here, maybe building on what has been said. But first and foremost, we would be happy to make Bixby and Sobranes and the other areas along Highway 1, Nacimiento, we would be happy to make those places world-renowned, famous for what not to do. So the more that can be done from an enforcement standpoint, we will blow that out there. We will push that out there. I want people to be afraid of doing the wrong thing in Big Sur. And we will promote, and we have promoted fines. I love me a good social post about the fine that you're going to have to pay if you do roadside camping. We will continue to push that. We have. The more that can be done from an enforcement standpoint, we'll keep making examples of that so people know. I already got I got on the list now, so we help put the little sign there. The sign maybe could be a little bit bigger at Old Coast Road. We need a multi-language sign because, as was mentioned earlier, people are coming here from all over the world and they don't necessarily speak English. Okay, we can work on that. I think that I love Marcus, some of the things that Marcus puts out there. He started today by saying people think that Keep Big Sur Wild is anti-tourist. That's probably as wrong as saying that C Monterey just wants more tourists. Of course not. We need to talk about managed growth strategies. We need to be smart about this. And I think this type of collaboration has helped us do that. And we are committed to continuing doing that. Alyssa is on the task force. We're part of the conversation, and anything we can do, it's the sign itself, for example. We talked about it before the task force was even created. And we said, all right, let's do something. So we work together to get something done, and we can build on that. So we're here, I think, all of us on the same side of the table. I saw the video. I saw when Big Sur Kate posted it, all the comments. I even got called out. I know something that a lot of those folks that were commenting don't know. We're on the same side. We want the same things. Our commitment is to quality of life for the people who live here while driving economic vitality, which is absolutely critical. So we're going to continue with that. We're open to the suggestions. I love what's going on here. And you have my commitment that on behalf of C Monterey, we'll do whatever we can to work with the community to make it a better experience for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Marcus Foster, and somebody who's never been on social media my whole life. I went viral. But I've been talking about Bixby, as you know, at these meetings for even before Big Little Lies and everything. And I wanted to do, you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but I wanted a visual, and I think it really took off way more than I thought. And we're having this conversation. We're dealing with Bixby Bridge more than we ever have. And the fact that Rob, from C Monterey and comes down to these meetings is super important. And he hears us. I know there's residents that kind of push back against the Visitors Bureau a little bit because it's, we sometimes feel like there's a lot of marketing and money being spent for people to come to these locations, but there's really just a lack of managing them once they get here. I've always kind of said, the TOT tax from these big luxury resorts in Big Sur, that money's going, I think, to the Visitors Bureau to create more advertising and marketing. I know it'd be complicated, but is there a way to take some of that money and put it into this enforcement mechanism and managing these areas that are so problematic. But I do appreciate everybody, you know, the CHP and sheriff, and it's got the conversation going. That was my purpose of making the video. I didn't know it would have this big of an effect, but I do appreciate all the voices and everybody coming together, and hopefully we can find a solution to it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no further comments or questions in regards to the Bixby Bridge Task Force. Moving on to agenda item number 7, report from member agency, Big Sur resident, North Coast.
Thank you very much. And just, I want to say again, thank you to the law enforcement personnel who were out there. I wasn't suggesting they should be there all day on these days, just maybe an hour or 2 in the afternoon, waving them through that stoplight going north. Anyhow. Oh, and also, sorry, the sheriff's commander, last time we had a meeting, said he strongly discouraged anybody other than law enforcement there, issuing tickets to, because it was a special job. So anyhow, moving right along. Our Grange, I wanted to mention, we're so excited. We're getting an AED unit on Tuesday. It's coming down here, so we will have one there. I've emailed with Paul regarding, I don't see one in here, but getting an AED from this conference room, as there's so many people that are here. So hopefully that will happen. There's a short training that goes along with it if you need to take it, which they say a kindergartner can operate an AED easily, which you pretty much can. It talks to you. So we're happy about that at the Grange. Excuse me. At our Historical Society, work is continuing on our cookbook. I know I've said this month after month, probably year after year at this point, but it is continuing. Hopefully we could have it together for Christmas gifts this Christmas. I'm not sure. We're setting dates for programs coming up, and things are going along pretty well there. We have a lot of visitors. Big Sur CERT. We've had refresher training. I have upcoming CPR, and thank you to the Grange for letting us use the Grange for free. Obviously, everybody's familiar with the Rocky Creek, and on Easter weekend that happened. My understanding, there's about 150 people up here at the conference center that needed a place to stay. The fire brigade went down and grabbed the disaster trailer that is parked at the health center and has been parked there for almost 20 years. And they brought it up and aired it out, dusted off the cobwebs, broke out some cots, and tried to take care of the visitors as much as they could. A long story short on that, CERT is going to take over the management of the disaster trailer. We've already been through it. We've inventoried it. We'll probably provide for more supplies in it, more cots. We've requested a grant to upgrade it and take care of it and have it going over, make sure the tires are good and the brakes, et cetera. So CERT will be managing that disaster trailer. It could be 20 years before we have another Rocky Creek on the Easter weekend. But if it does, hopefully we will be there and be prepared for it. And I think that is all I have. Thank you.
South Coast.
Okay. So I have, since our last meeting, time has been my biggest enemy. And so I put this together this morning from a number of emails that I've received over the last 4 months. And so forgive me if it's a little all over the place, but okay, so I'm going to be paraphrasing from a few local community members. I really want to thank Tom Collins, who has been really instrumental. He's a resident of the South Coast, member of CAB's board of directors, and he's really been instrumental in keeping the community informed and keeping our just all of us aware of what's going on down there. And so I am going to be paraphrasing a little bit of some of the emails that he's kept going to me and to members of the community. And so I want to start first of all with a big thank you to the Federal Highways Administration project managers who were working on Nassamanu Ferguson Road, specifically Mike Dagler, Justin Henwood, and their contractor Nick Herbach. For their quick and efficient work. This project team deserves our gratitude and appreciation because of their excellent communication skills and issue resolution. Mike Dagler was always aware of the impact of the project on the community as new closures on Highway 1 added to the community's misery. Mike frequently asked how specific residents were holding up under the strain.
So for a while, the west side of Nacimiento was closed to even people who lived up there. I mean, it was completely shut down and it was a huge imposition for the people who lived up there. And Nick knew these individuals by name and asked about them. And early on, the project team allowed direct communication between Nick Herbach and the CAB's representative, Tom Collins, so that a detailed and precise schedule of closures could be immediately shared with residents on a weekly basis. Justin Henwood was always quick to respond to emails, even on weekends. Another exceptional thing Mike did was to allow his monthly meetings to be used as a forum for principals, people involved, to discuss matters related to the project, but not part of the project. Among other things, this led to a maintenance project on Plaskett and Los Burros after a visit by the Monterey County Department of Public Works and U.S. Forest Service. And also a road project that U.S. Forest Service ended up providing 194 tons of gravel with the agreement that residents would install it. And Mike Dagler's leadership in providing a forum led to these successes, even if he might not even be aware of that. So in sum, and these are Tom Collins' words, but I agree, is that no future project should be conducted without a resident representative from the beginning of the project. I think that was really key in making the repair of Nacimiento Ferguson work for the members of the community that live up there. From Tom also, he would like to thank all of the Big Sur residents who patiently and cooperatively did their part abiding by the Nasty Fergie road closure schedule. Their good attitude was recognized at project meetings and was appreciated. Residents endured a torturous 8 months of very difficult access challenges. And then thank you also to Monterey County Department of Public Works for their current project to rehabilitate the county sections of Plaskett and Los Burros roads. Also, thanks to U.S. Forest Service for the 196 tons of gravel, as I mentioned, that helped make those mountain roads, Plaskett, Los Burros, and Ulm safer in the wet conditions this winter. Okay, so there are some other issues that the community has brought to me. And the first concerns the ability of South Coast residents to participate in these meetings themselves. Excuse me. Okay, so for one thing, the Zoom capabilities are a huge advancement, and we appreciate the fact that we can now listen and see what's going on, but there's still, we can't participate. And the job of even representing the South Coast, which is my job, has become a lot more difficult now that I need to essentially drive 8 to 10 hours round trip to get here. I'm already on this side because I have a job here. I've already scheduled my life to adapt to these road closures. But the reason that you're not seeing a lot of South Coasters here is because that's what it takes to get here. And so there is some frustration with that. And I think if there was a way to increase the Zoom potential to even include maybe commentary, if there was a way we could incorporate that. At any rate, there is a sense of exclusion, and there are concerns that this issue will continue with, the continuation of global warming and the disintegration of our infrastructure, specifically Highway 1, which is in pretty terrible shape right now. So there is a fear that this is only going to get worse, and people are becoming disillusioned, alienated, and a little restless. Another issue brought to me is the lack of vegetation maintenance on the mountain roads in Los Burros, South Coast Ridge Road, and Plaskett. Apparently, vegetation management hasn't happened on any of those dirt roads in about 4 years. And the Genista, which is one of those opportunistic organisms that makes a stunning rebound after fires, is hanging out in the roadway. And I guess maybe you can talk about this when you speak for service, that there's an understanding that some equipment was shipped to help ameliorate the problem, but it arrived broken. So I guess the community is wondering if that is going to be looked at, and you probably have an answer. And then another issue, which is really concerning for many of us, regards the reopening of Nacimiento Ferguson Road to the public. As you all know, Highway 1 is not scheduled to fully open until late fall, if that. And residents are concerned that if Nacimiento opens prior to the highway opening, it would result in a huge, a large number of public traffic on a road that's already been deemed unsafe. And so the residents, a number of them have requested to keep Nasamiano closed to the public until after Highway 1 reopens. And I know that Forest Service and Monterey County representatives, you all are aware that that this could be a potential problem. So let's think about that. I know the forest order is good until August 31st, and I think we're hoping that Nasamiano can at least stay closed until the forest order is lifted. Continuing on, and also sort of related to that, there's concerns about the reopening of the dispersed camping roads on Plaskett and Los Burros. Just with Highway 1 closed to the north, fire agency response to the south coast would be extremely limited. And with a majority of Big Sur Fire's equipment and personnel on the north side of Regent Slide, there's fear that if there was an escaped illegal campfire, our entire community could once again be put in grave danger with no immediate assistance or sufficient response team. All right. And finally, the last issue, which I admit has had a huge impact on me personally, is the continued closure of Highway 1 at Regents and Paul Slide, which has created an island community where hardships have been exponential over the last few months. That island community which is composed of residents from the Hermitage, Point 16, Lucia, Morning Glory, Lopez Point, and the Big Creek Preserve, has endured 4 months of brutal commutes to and from school, work, doctor's appointments, etc. And as a member of that community, I can speak for those of us who have wasted days of our lives navigating inflexible convoy schedules, hundreds of miles of travel in a single trip, and unfortunately, an inflexible and sometimes seemingly unsympathetic government agency in order to maintain our livelihoods and existence. Sorry, you guys, my mouth is really dry. Okay. So I am, of course, speaking to Caltrans, and this is nothing personal, but I have met with them over Zoom over half a dozen times in the last 4 months to advocate for increased access across Paul's Slide for those of us who live within the closure, and have met nothing but excuses and delays. Senator James Laird, Kate Daniels, who's here somewhere, and former Representative Sam Farr also participated in some of these meetings. And at one point, I actually felt hopeful that the few people trapped between those slides would have greater flexibility after hours with the addition of a keyed or combination lock to ease some of the burden of attempting to maintain a full-time job and still be able to return home to take care of our homes and livestock. However, those hopes were soon vanquished, and finally, we agreed on at least a later time, 1 day a week, which was just recently added for the final weeks of the Paul's closure. At this point, I can only look forward to the reopening of Paul's Slide to the public with great anticipation, while dreading the lasting impacts of Regent Slide and the continued hardships that we will still have to endure, particularly with an agency that doesn't seem to respond to anyone other than the governor when it comes to helping our community maintain its existence here. I hope that with the new oversight, with whoever is replacing Sarah Von Schwinn, we will have a more responsive agency willing to learn from the examples of the Federal Highways Administration project managers, Mike Dagler, Justin Henwood, and their contractor, Nick Herback. I hope that going forward, Caltrans will begin to work with local residents and emergency responders to ensure access while the roads remain closed.
Thank you. Big Sur Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Congressman Panetta. With respect to traffic levels, now that Rocky Creek has got 24/7 public access, which was restored about 3 weeks ago, we're seeing a pretty rapid rebound, but it's important to recognize that while that's coming back to almost levels that were seen a year ago, that level a year ago was 30 to 35% below normal due to the South Coast closures. So to the point that Diana Valentine made earlier, we do have these hotspot areas such as Bixby that perhaps create the impression that Big Sur is overrun and that visitation is at some enormous level. But in fact, that's not really reflective of overall visitation to the area. And as Breeze pointed out, the South Coast has a whole unique set of geographic challenges and distances. And so to better understand all of this, you know, one really has to understand the geography of Big Sur. And that's one of our big challenges as representatives and advocates, is trying to help agencies and our elected officials appreciate these distinctions. With respect to the Rocky Creek slip out, I do want to take a different approach or a view than what perhaps has been experienced on the South Coast, in the sense that I think we have seen a really extraordinary collaboration of both government and non-government officials and agencies working together really effectively for the community north of the slides. But some of that has been beneficial to residents to the south. And notably, Monterey County, we've had the Justin Lin at the Department of Emergency Management from the very early onset was very helpful in trying to facilitate disaster assistance and ultimately working to get an SBA disaster facility pop up down here, which was of great benefit to assisting in navigating through that for certainly for businesses. Supervisor Adams was immediately available to offer what assistance the county could provide. And the communications department, Nick Pasculi and Maya Carroll, were also very helpful in providing a forum to be able to make sure the issues and the challenges that we had were going out through the weekly briefings for the Public Information Office. Certainly on the state side, Caltrans engaging very quickly in terms of accommodating the community convoys within almost 24 hours of the closure, which completely changed the dynamic of this closure in so many ways. From the business standpoint and the economic impact on employees, it wouldn't have mattered if those convoys were there because the public couldn't come through. But for residents on the north side, while extraordinarily inconvenient, it really made an enormous difference and took so much of the pressure off as compared to, say, the Pfeiffer Canyon Bridge experience. The Highway Patrol certainly has been fully engaged there in trying to assist and manage those convoys. At times that was a little inconsistent and created all sorts of madness, but it was a unique situation for a unique community and challenges. And on balance, I think it worked pretty well. The Assembly Member Addis and her staff were doing what they could do. And really, though, Senator Laird personally and his office and Kate Daniels were basically took up most of my data plan and were always available and doing what they could do to understand the challenges and identify what could be done at the state level up to the governor's office. And we saw that reflected certainly in the involvement of the governor, which, as we all know, makes a huge difference in terms of, if nothing else, just focus and attention by the agencies in addressing the challenge in front of it, and helping us understand at the community level what the constraints were, the limitations, what was realistic. And there's a lot of disappointments in these situations. There's the complexity. Mother Nature trumps all, and the best plans often go awry. And so we're always managing that, trying to manage the communication and plan as best we can. But I really want to particularly thank you, John, knowing that our community had a direct line to Sacramento. Even if we didn't get the answers we wanted, we knew we were being heard. And we knew that we were also having the opportunity to understand what was going on at the level where the agencies were engaged. Congressman Panetta and his Chief of Staff, Mark Denon, were very, the rapidity with which we got the SBA loan disaster set up while that was happening, and to be able to provide that opportunity for economic injury disaster loans, absolutely critical for the business community. And what complemented all of those government interactions in those various agencies was that we had Chief Harris on behalf of Big Sur Fire, as I mentioned earlier. Immediately, he was engaged in an incident command, and he was communicating the needs of the community to the agencies in that very initial kind of management of a very difficult situation. and allowing us to know what those constraints were, also what the resources were and the possibilities were, so we could keep advancing and hopefully improve the condition of the community and ultimately restore access. The Community Foundation for Monterey County, along with CABS and some pretty notable individual efforts by David Fink and members of the Monterey County hospitality industry, hotels, wineries, and restaurateurs came together in very short order to put together a fantastic fundraiser for the benefit of the workforce of Big Sur that was either unemployed because they've been furloughed or were significantly underemployed. And raising those funds through traditional sort of disaster relief efforts and through marketing and through just putting out the message was one thing, but one of the challenges that most agencies and even non-government organizations such as Community Foundation have is how do you get that money to the individuals who have the need, and how do you do that in a timely manner? And that's where CABS came in. CABS was able to receive those funds, and it had developed a very tried and true process to vet and qualify individuals who met a criteria that indicated they have been impacted economically by the event and needed that. And in particular, Patty Cronlund and Rachel Goldberger did a heroic effort of going through literally hundreds, and they can go to the detail on it, but an astonishing number of individuals who they would go through individual applications to be able to then determine with the resources available, how those could be distributed to those individuals in our workforce. So in addition to EDD and unemployment insurance, there was the community at large coming together and working with our agencies and our elected officials. And it was an extraordinarily difficult, hugely economically impactful situation. But there were a lot of success stories and a lot of really great indications of working together to better prepare us hopefully for the next event. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, it feels like it's been quite some time since we were all together, not just because it's been 4 months, but also because of the road closure circumstance that Martha, Bree, and Kirk have already spoken about. I'll add some detail to what was mentioned. So with the disaster relief process for the Rocky Creek circumstance, CABS wrote 535 grant checks. That was a total of 267,000 that was paid out. There's a few requests pending, and we hope that those checks will go out in the coming week. As Kirk said, a huge thanks is owed to Rachel Goldberger, Patty Cronlund, who led this work and worked tirelessly to get checks out to our community members with great expediency. And of course, CABS couldn't have done this work without various partnerships that were happening along the way. So Kirk mentioned David Fink. The fundraiser at the beginning of last month was really essential. Thanks is owed to La Playa Hotel, Elsa Rivera, Matt Peterson, and their Big Sur Food and Wine team, as well as all of those who attended, those who donated, and the Big Sur Relief Fund in memory of Weston Call and the Community Foundation for Monterey County received those funds and paid out those funds to CABS. So they were an essential partnership as well in that process of receiving 112,000 from that fundraiser. We received private donations along the way as well, some through social media, some through email, some through longstanding relationships that CABS has with different community members. Thanks is owed there. And to all of the Big Sur businesses in terms of helping us process 600 assessment forms that were received. This could have been done without support from each business. In relation to what Bree had said, we would like to just acknowledge that our South Coast neighbors still face harsh circumstances in terms of the limitations on how and where they can travel. That's gone back to January 2023 and will continue through much of the rest of this year. So we're just acknowledging that while we have relative normalcy up here, things still remain challenged on the South Coast. CABS also wants to acknowledge John and Caltrans for the quick response with the Rocky Creek circumstance. Assessing what had happened, initiating the convoys quickly was critical. And Chief Matt Harris, who activated the Big Sur Incident Command on March 30th within just an hour of the slip out, working with many crucial community partners, Kirk with the Big Sur Chamber of Commerce, Martha with Sur, Sharon Carey with the Health Center, Patty Crownland with CABS were all key in that effort. And it was through that quick action that this space was identified as a place for people in need to go with the immediate closure of the road. That ended up being about 1,400 people who were stuck on this side, who intended not to be stuck on this side. Thanks is owed to Senator Laird's office for all of your leadership through you and your staff, what you had done to help resolve the circumstance and reopen the road, as well as Assembly Member Addis's office, Supervisor Adams. The closure should also encourage us to think about the ways in which needs for those trapped on this side would have grown exponentially as each day of the closure extended. Thankfully, it was just one night. If it had been 2 or 3 nights, it would have been a different matter. So now is a good time to think about what a longer term closure might mean in terms of supporting many hundreds of people trapped in a circumstance where north and south road access is blocked. Bree mentioned some important things about road projects on the south coast, Nacimiento, Plaskett, and Los Burros. I'll just note that our board member on the South Coast, Tom Collins, has been a really critical community liaison between different agencies and making sure that the community felt informed and empowered regarding what was happening. So thanks to Congressman Panetta for your support always with the emergency relief for federally owned roads work, as well as U.S. Forest Service. And I'll share the same thought that Bree had shared, which is mentioning that there shouldn't be future projects that, I'll word it more clearly. Every future project should include a community representative, be it IRFO, county road projects. That's always in the best interest of all to have a community representative who can help the broader community understand what's happening. Tom Collins, Butch Crownland, and others have done excellent work in that role. CABS would also like to recognize and thank Randy Ishii with Monterey County Public Works, his staff, Jose Enrique, Papich Construction for the great work they've done on Plaskett and Los Burros Road. That makes a difference for community members. Last item here is the work led by Rainer Marks with Fire Adapted Big Sur. There is a QR code in the back, I think, and that QR code takes you to something important, which is a survey about safety and evacuation related to fires in Big Sur. And if you haven't taken that yet, please do so today. Fireside chats have been successful in their incarnation at the Big Sur River Inn. They'll be expanding to the Mid-Coast Fire Station to encourage folks in the Palo Colorado community to be involved with Fire Adapted Big Sur. Both were asking questions about potential FireWise certification for neighborhoods in the Palo Colorado community and general questions that Rainer may be able to answer about wildfire preparation. Rainer will be at the Big Sur Fire Muster on July 13th. Hope to see a lot of you there. And the very final thing I'll note, just in response to the ADU info that was shared by the county, housing has come up a lot in this meeting. CABS talks about housing a lot. And what we saw today seemed to be movement in a really positive direction in terms of ADUs being an option in Monterey County, but very few having been built over the last 5 or 10 years. And the processes that were mentioned seem to help us move to a circumstance where people are actually building ADUs that will keep people, long-term people in this community with stability in the way that they need and deserve. So CABS will be encouraging local folks to be involved with the July Planning Commission meeting, as well as when the matter reaches Mary and the other county supervisors. That's it for me.
Planning Department, go.
Hi, thank you. Melanie Beretti. I will try to project better. Please in the back, let me know if you can't hear me. Very quickly, I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for being here. I do take copious notes and really bring them back to our team to help incorporate in every way that we can with what we're doing. A couple of key just updates and dates I wanted to relay to this group. One, just a brief update. I won't go in detail because you'll get it through Caltrans, but the county, the Board of Supervisors did recently continue once again the Garrapatta Creek Bridge Rail item so that the working group that Supervisor Adams has been convening can continue to work. And so our planning team, staff will continue to support that group as needed to move that project forward. We just this Wednesday had a very thorough workshop with the Monterey County Planning Commission on our housing element. Our housing element is our 8-year plan for 2023 through 2031 to meet our regional housing needs allocation for unincorporated Monterey County. So countywide, we have a very tall order from the state in terms of units that we need to plan for and try to help facilitate more housing, and a real challenging task to do that in a way that helps get and truly incentivize and encourage the type of housing that we need. The issues that you all face here in Big Sur, our communities are facing in different but quite overlapping ways countywide. So we're working on that. We will be taking the housing element draft to the Board of Supervisors and incorporating what we heard from the Planning Commission this coming Tuesday, June 11th. So there will be a hearing on our housing element. Also on our county webpage, the draft housing element is still available and open for public comment. So you can also please feel to take a look there and submit comments directly via email to us. We want to hear from as many folks as we can. This will not be the last conversation. This is a first draft. Once we get a first draft that we are comfortable locally, we then send that to the state for their first review. And then we bring it all back again to respond and release another draft for community input. So this is a long process with, and we're trying to have ample community input. The other next upcoming important date I want to flag in case it's not on your radar, our vacation rental ordinances are finally coming back to our policymakers for consideration, recommendation. Next Wednesday at the Planning Commission is the vacation rental ordinance hearing. And so you please get that on your calendars. You can join in person and or all of our hearings are via Zoom as well, and they're interactive, so we can receive input. And we look forward to hearing from the community on where we landed after our EIR, and that then informing a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Just a reminder, in the coastal zone, once we get Board of Supervisors approval, we then submit to California Coastal Commission for their certification, so that it will then move into us working directly with the Coastal Commission staff, trying to keep that moving as quickly as we can because they are long overdue. So we recognize that, and thanks for the patience and the input to help inform those regulations. Two other, just briefly, for the comprehensive Big Sur land use plan update. We have a community meeting that is coming up June 18th. It is scheduled in the evening. I apologize, I don't have the time on hand. Oh, wait. Thank you. From 4 to 7 p.m. And that is including our planning team will be there, as well as Kate Daniels and Martha Deal, our planning commissioner ad hoc committee. We are trying to have this be as really direct and interactive with the community. So we really hope to have as much participation, and that will be also broadcast for a hybrid ability for individuals who can't be up here in person. And I believe it's here at the Big Sur Lodge. I'm so sorry, I was not well prepared. I'm seeing nods, so that is correct. My apologies, a lot of details. So that is upcoming. We look forward to seeing many of you. And then also our continued discussion of the Big Sur land use plan update, helping to bring forward some of that input, will be at our planning commission once again on June 26th. So that's another one. It'll be going for a while, much opportunity for community input. We thank you for staying present with us through the policy development. It's so important that we get it right and that we hear you and that you know that we sometimes put drafts out that really need your help to improve. So we recognize that and appreciate the input. I'll stop there.
Regional Park. Kate Mario, Monterey Peninsula Regional Park District. The Park District recently hosted the 3rd annual Race for Open Space, which trail run event offered and organized by the Big Sur Land Trust. That includes varying courses, varying distances, traversing not only Colorado Regional Park, but the Land Trust Middleborough Preserve, as well as Uinta State Park. Happy to report there were no injuries, but all participants reported being absolutely exhausted after the event, and looking forward to signing up for next year. This event continues to be a fine example of nonprofit organizations and government agencies, including state parks, working together. So big kudos to the Land Trust. The Park District continues the planning and design phase for the floodplain restoration project at Paula Corona as well. In cooperation with partners, Coastal Conservancy and Trout Unlimited. Park District is applying for grants and close to securing commitments by agencies for full funding of the project, estimated to be around $35 million. Be on the lookout for workshops advertised soon to give the public an opportunity to learn about the project and provide their input. Want to invite everyone who is motivated to drive out to Carmel Valley this weekend. The 25th annual Wildflower Show at Garland Ranch Regional Park. Displays are available to the public from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. both Saturday and Sunday. This is one of the Park District's largest events of the year. Park District continues to engage and remains committed to the concept for a Park It Shuttle program to hopefully alleviate congestion along the northern segment of the highway, including Paula Corona and Point Lobos and other state parks. And finally, as many of you are also doing at your homes, the Park District is implementing lots and lots and lots of seasonal maintenance, mowing specifically along trails, roadways, and open spaces in hopes of preventing any future wildfires. We're also hoping for another slow wildfire year. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Coastal Commission.
All right. Yesterday evening, commission staff and Commissioner Notoff and Cummings attended a site visit to Bixby Bridge, and then a community meeting in this room. We had some productive discussions and heard from you all about a wide range of topics important to the community, including affordable housing, short-term rentals, Bixby Bridge, and many of the other topics raised today. The commission's June hearing will be held on June 12th through the 14th in Morro Bay and can be attended in person or on Zoom. On Friday, the 14th, the commission will be hearing an enforcement item for the Rocky Point restaurant site, where a number of Coastal Act violations have occurred over the years. The consent cease and desist order requires, among other things, improvements to existing public trails, off-highway public parking, new public bathrooms, and ecological restoration. The order only addresses past violations of the site and is wholly separate from any development the owner might seek permitting for in the future. If you want to speak on this item in the hearing, you can sign up to do so on the commission's website. And if you want to submit written comments, they need to be sent in by 5 p.m. today. Commission staff continue to coordinate with Caltrans, Monterey County, state parks, and other partners on forthcoming projects in Big Sur. Commission transportation staff are currently working with Caltrans on numerous projects in Big Sur and have issued emergency permits for armoring along the highway at Shell Point and for clearing the Region Slide. Coordination is ongoing for the permitting for both the short and long-term solutions at the Rocky Creek Slide. Commission staff are also in the process of reviewing several proposed land use plan updates that would impact Big Sur, including the ADU update that we talked about today, the short-term rental ordinance, which we also talked about today, and the broader Big Sur LUP update, which we also talked about today. We continue to look forward to a collaborative process with the county, community, and their stakeholders as these LUP updates continue to unfold.
Caltrans.
Thank you. John Olenek, Caltrans District 5. Appreciate the expressions of thanks about the response and the communication. I'm going to particularly pass those along and specifically to first our maintenance crews here in the area who, when the slip out happened, were asked to drive out there throughout the night and armor the site so as to protect it. And then another thanks specifically to a specific engineer who was on his way out of town with his family for Easter. And someone knew that he might be close enough, so they called him and he diverted him and his family to the area so they could do some inspections and take a look so that the work could get done right away. That of course, under the context of Rocky Creek, of course, we are open now with the signal, the 1-lane operation. We continue to monitor the signal. It's programmed in a way to allow bicycles, which we have to absorb a little bit of a slowdown with that, but we do monitor those signal operations every week, and we appreciate the feedback if there's observations of how that's working. The pencils are still working fast to develop the permanent structure for this emergency. And that permanent structure, the teams, before even the signal was open, the permanent structure teams were already assembling, and they are working as quick as possible. We are under this emergency work, we're looking at an estimated $20 to $30 million for the repair, and with a completed timeline about summer of 2025. For Rocky, let's see. One last footnote on Rocky, specifically for the signal and the loops. So again, I've mentioned the loops are programmed. There's cameras that are watching so that the operations can work as quickly as possible. But for those who are approaching the signal, it's best just to get right up to the limit line, because that's where the loops are, and that'll trigger the signal to go ahead and allow you in. We announced recently an update to Pulse Line, so that opening was advanced. So we're excited for that for the beginning of July. And as Bree mentioned, we're trying to do our best to accommodate where we can. There's of course the site conditions that make it allow for a safe movement back and forth. So we have that in mind for everyone as well. Was reflecting a little on the conversation earlier about all the plans that are underway, the Big Sur land use plan, and other plans we have. And I think it was Kate Daniels who said something about looking at the plans as a whole. And we are doing that ourselves. We love to do that in collaboration with others, because there are multiple plans and many times there's inconsistencies within those plans. So getting a chance to do that is very important to us. In fact, we've been chatting amongst our group at Caltrans in our offices about getting these plans together and weekly looking at them. And in fact, we just came across a 1982 version of the Big Sur cookbook. So we're gonna make a recipe from the cookbook, and have a book club, so to speak, as we read all these plans and making sure that if there's anything to identify and ways to carry them forward in this new era, in an era where these plans are made when climate change wasn't our topic. We have social media now we're attending and to contend with and be a part of as well. So again, looking forward, just collaborating with everyone on these efforts going forward. And then just briefly, lastly, on the invasives, I brought up in response to the commenter earlier that we work through the Byways organization. We have there's all of our agencies and all of our jurisdictions have to work together to mitigate the concerns of invasives. And while we use herbicides in addition to manual extraction, herbicides are under more scrutiny and more regulation than ever before. So I'll make an attempt to connect with the commenter later and see if I can answer or get some specific answers to your questions later. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to the Big Sur Lodge for hosting. Double mics here. In the interest of time, I will be available afterwards too. So if you have an individual comment, I'm happy to discuss it after this meeting. And again, thanks to the Big Sur Lodge for hosting. So happy World Oceans Day to everybody. We're doing a really cool event today in Point Lobos, where we're broadcasting to over 10,000 people live, an underwater event where they can actually interact with people at the mast. Students can talk to the divers and saying, so we're going to continue World Oceans Day this week. And then moving into next week, we have Parks Week. So we're just highlighting parks as we kick off summer. So feel free to look at our websites and see some of the activities we have planned here and other parks throughout Monterey County. And of course, we're upping our aquatic safety through all of this as well. Let me see. I want to thank Nick and especially Sonia at the county. They've just been exceptional. I think Sonia's presence has been noted by a lot of agencies. She's outstanding. And then the fine for parking has did increase here. There was a small group of people, including state park staff, they encourage that, and it did seem to help. So just a note for Nassau or Ferguson, if room is over $1,000, sometimes a $100, $150 parking ticket is not much of a deterrent. However, the new fees do seem to be a deterrent, and I'm happy to work with other agencies to work on a fee structure or fine structure, as the case may be, but of course, it's up to the county.
You do not have a number on the new fee.
The one that we did change based on a group was the county changed it to $1,000 along the highway. And state parks, highway patrol, sheriff's office, all enforce that. Amongst others, and Fish and Wildlife as well. The shuttle for Park It up at the northern area, again around Point Lobos, is you know, a great example of trying to reduce highway traffic. We've kind of exhausted all options. We don't have the funding, and especially in light of the state funding, we don't think we can do that without any cost, but we are working with allied agencies to have that be a nominal cost. And once we get that sorted, we hope to really start that again, kind of a tip of the spear that could be implemented throughout the whole highway corridor. And again, a lot of things on the Park It shuttle are online. So feel free to look at that. And then lastly, there were some comments about restrooms. State Parks does have quite a few restrooms that are open based on input from this group about 7 or 8 years ago. Now, restrooms are free in state parks if the family stays from the vehicle to the restroom. It is hard to manage that. You might be surprised, but some of the visiting public are not completely honest with the front gate attendant. But we do offer that. We do have a balance of advertising for the very reasons that we were all kind of chuckling. But if people do come in, we do allow people to use restrooms, especially at spots like Andrew Malera, for a 10-minute stop. We do not charge. And that is a change that we've undergone in the last few years. And then with the break of COVID and everything, we're instituting that again. So I just want to clarify that. We're happy to help out. We do have a lot of restrooms along the Big Sur Highway corridor, but we do need to do a better job as well. So we're continuing to try to advance that capacity, but it's a lengthy process to get those developments, especially if you're trying to do something west of the highway, which would allow for people to not have to cross the highway when they're visiting beaches like Garrapatta, but could, if not designed well and under vigorous discussion, impact coastal views. So development west of the highway is really tricky for understandable reasons, but we're working on it. And then the cabins that were brought up earlier, Marcus brought that up. You know, there is opportunity for comment. We did post those out, and I did mention to this group, if not the last meeting, the one before that, that we are attending to build 9 cabins in Pfeiffer, and that did go before the board in Salinas and was approved without any dissent, which I was kind of surprised about because it is more people here, and you know, we're inviting the public to have comments on that. It is a state park project. Part of our mission is to increase access to these beautiful areas, but we do pride ourselves in being a good community member and to being responsive to comments. So that project is going forward. It was posted for 90 days. It did go out. I mentioned it here, but if there are comments, you can go through the planning process and your comments can still be heard, because we want to make sure we're crossing all the T's and dotting the I's for that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, as read by Colleen.
Hello, everyone. Karen Grimmer asked for me to read this. There's 4 updates. The National Marine Sanctuaries continues to coordinate with Caltrans and other agencies such as U.S. Army Corps, California Coastal Commission, NOAA Fisheries, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, California Department of Fish and Wildlife on permitting and mitigations for Big Sur Highway 1 road repair activities at the 4 main landslide locations due to winter storms. The goals are to minimize impacts to the endangered black abalone and other resources, and get the road open to all again. Sunday, June 8th, that's maybe Saturday, is the final decision by the Pacific Fishery Management Council on fishery protections for 3 proposed areas: Año Nuevo, Ascension Canyon, and Sur Ridge for deep sea coral research and restoration. The areas would allow the marine sanctuaries to conduct outplanting studies of deep sea corals in deep areas over 400 fathoms in federal waters that are suitable for transplanting corals. The areas would be closed to fixed gear fisheries, which include pots and traps, in order to project the outplanted corals from crushing or other damage due to fishing gear. This project is included in the sanctuary's draft climate adaptation plan, which is under development and due for completion in 2025. Team Ocean, which stands for Ocean Conservation Education Action Network, kayakers headed out to recreational areas in the Elkhorn Slough, Moss Landing, Cannery Row, Monterey, starting on Memorial Day weekend to educate the public about the sanctuary, its incredible wildlife, and how to responsibly interact with other animals. This year's 16 new Team Ocean volunteers were trained and deployed into the field and will be operating on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday until Labor Day. During their shifts, volunteers collect data and act as good witnesses by documenting and reporting wildlife disturbances. Team Ocean volunteers help keep an eye on the sanctuary and contribute to documenting and preventing wildlife disturbances during the high tourist season. And finally, on Saturday, May 25th, at the Sanctuary Exploration Center in Santa Cruz, the Dia de la Comunidad event drew in a crowd of approximately 500 people. This event was funded by the California Department of Parks and Rec Outdoor Equity Grant in efforts to provide more accessible outdoor education for marginalized communities. The celebration brought together 3 prominent community groups, including the Watsonville Senior Center, Activities for All Kids Mariachi, and Folklorico. Alongside a dedicated school group, the event showcased a diverse range of activities aimed at engaging participants of all ages, from plankton viewing stations to kayaking adventures at the wharf. Arts and crafts activities added a creative touch, while a beach scavenger hunt added an element of excitement. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Chris Stubbs. I'm the Forest Supervisor for Los Padres National Forest. I have a few updates. First of all, we're doing some trail work with the disaster supplemental money we got after the Dolan fire. We'll be working on the Marble Peak and Tony trails. We'll be working at Vincent Flat. Both of those will start in October. Mid-June coming up, the Long Beach Conservation Corps will be working on our front country trails in this area. And I'm happy to report working on the Sand Dollar Beach Access Trail. If you haven't been on that trail, it needs some work. I've already provided an update on Nacimiento Ferguson Road. I do want to acknowledge the concerns raised about the timeline. We have the same concerns and about the camping along that road. So thank you for bringing that forward. We finished our coastal zone visitor use management strategy. It was released this week, and we couldn't have done it without all of you. I especially want to call out the Ventana Wilderness Alliance, the Community Association of Big Sur, Parks Management Company, state parks, and residents along the coast. It really was a collaborative process, and we had robust engagement up here. We had robust engagement on the South Coast as well. There will be a virtual public meeting coming up soon where we can answer questions about that strategy. In terms of wildfire prevention, we are continuing with our strategic community fuel break along Chews Ridge, along North Coast Ridge Road, Mount Manual and Post Summit, and along Skinner Ridge. And then, as many of you know, we've worked with the Coastal Commission for nearly 2 years on San Carpoforo, on the consistency determination there. And we have implemented a forest order that prohibits overnight camping, prohibits campfires, and enforces dogs on a leash in that area. Our biologist is working with California State Parks on the protection of the western snowy plover along that beach. Congressman Panetta and Supervisor Adams, it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me. That concludes my remarks.
Supervisor Adams.
Thank you. Actually, everything that I was going to report on has already been covered, and I'm very thankful for that. So I'm going to take just a couple of brief moments for thank yous, and the thank yous have almost all been covered. But first, I'd like to thank and acknowledge Alex Vexola, who has been doing all of the IT media work for us back in the back, and his company. That's Alex, and then his assistant, or his associate, I should say, Quinn, very thankful, very, very helpful, and his company that is Vatsula Visuals. So we're really it's a step forward without any question, and I'm very delighted with that. Special thanks as well for my Chief of Staff, Colleen Courtney, who did so much to coordinate the event last night with the Coastal Commission, which was in this room, which was just really terrific. And you've already heard a report back on that. Thank you very much for that. It was all just so good. I think the word that just comes to my mind over and over and over again is just the word collaboration. Because again, it has been said, thank you to everyone in this room and to all the people who were here last night as well. Everybody is just so helpful and working together so very, very well, from the community to every entity that's sitting up here. It's just really been marvelous to see how projects have been approached, problems have been approached and just resolved so quickly. Marcus, I'm looking at you. You've done so much to help things here. I really mean that. The communication and the collaboration has just been exceptional. I want to say a special thank you again to Caltrans. You know, it was just so fast. And the fact that you were able to pull some poor guy trying to take his family to, a family vacation on Easter to just divert and come here really shows the importance of your communication, your engagement, that we can get a state agency to just boom, move on a dime to take care of the problems that we have here, and the acknowledgement of how grave the problems are that we face, that Mother Nature, God love her, brings down on us on occasion. So I just really wanted to call out a few things. I don't know if we really had a formal announcement of the new Sarah. I'm not so sure that we did. If you want to stand up just for a sec and just say your name. So he's, thank you, that was enough. He'll learn soon when you come to a Big Sur meeting, you don't have to wear hard-soled shoes, but that's a good thing. Again, just thanks to everybody. This is just terrific. A welcome to Deputy Rosas. I really thought that your comment about international signs was important. And as Brent was talking about the restrooms that exist all the way down the coast, if you're, if you don't speak any English or even use our alphabet, to think of having some sort of international signs, free restrooms sort of thing would make such a difference. It really would. We've been talking about this for 8 years, trying to find the money to put restrooms up along the coast, and they do exist. They're just unknown. So I'm hopeful that we can take a look at that. I think everybody knows my time is winding down. This is probably I think it's my second to last meeting or third to last meeting of BISMAC. And I just can't help but say, what a treat. Just what a treat. I know that I wouldn't be able to sit here ready to retire if it weren't for Kate just stepping up to take over. And I'm so, so happy. But it just has been and will continue to be just a wonderful treat to sit at this table and work with all of you. So thank you.
Here, 30th District, California State Assembly.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, everyone. Just really quick, some quick brief updates, starting with Sacramento related updates. So in this second half of the legislative session, the 2024 half, the Assemblywoman was given new committee assignments. She now sits on the Education Committee, previously Higher Education. Now Education Committee covers K through 12. Water Parks and Wildlife Committee, Military and Veteran Affairs Committee, Government Organization Committee. And as a lot of us know or don't know, California is facing a budget deficit, and chairing the Central Coast Caucus, some of which is comprised of 10 Central Coast legislators, including, of course, Senator John Laird. Some other budget priorities are listed here. So for starters, coastal resilience, clean drinking water, and fire preparation / response. The Central Coast Caucus also came out with a scholarship for students here in the Central Coast that are pursuing higher education. And I believe the deadline just passed, so I apologize for that. But we're excited to be picking out the students and looking at all the applications. Also, apart from the Central Coast Caucus budget priorities, some of the District 30 standalone priorities are safeguarding classroom funding, focusing on issues of rising utility rates, insurance affordability, housing costs, and emergency response. And now moving on to kind of big, district-related things. I want to give a shout out to Kathleen Novoa. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but she's also known as Big Sur Kate. She has been just a phenomenal advocate and just a rock star in sharing information that's related to Big Sur. Sometimes it feels like after Caltrans comes out with a press release, it's only a couple seconds after she sends out an email on her blog. So she was actually chosen as one of the 2 Women of the Year in Monterey County for the 30th District in honor of Women's Month. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on. But 2 women of every county that are inside the 3rd Assembly District were chosen, and one of them was Kathleen Novoa. So if you see her out in the community, please congratulate her. I don't think she's here today, but just give her a congratulations, please. Yeah. Also, now Rocky Creek, I want to say thank you to Caltrans and all the parties involved for keeping the communication flowing. We were part of the weekly meetings that they were hosting, and just a tremendous job by them. And during the actual slip out, a couple hours afterwards, Cal OES actually put a temporary cellular coverage, they established a temporary cellular coverage unit, and the Assemblywoman actually requested to Cal OES if they can extend that a little longer for the residents and everyone near the slip out. Apart from that, also unemployment. If anyone knows of anyone who lost their employment due to the slip out and are seeking unemployment benefits, please, point them to our office. We're happy to assist them in any way we can. I believe that's it.
Just great to see you, and it's great to actually be here and not be on a Zoom or phone call with all of you. And I think Kirk did an outstanding job of going through everyone and their role and what happened in this. But I thought briefly I'd talk about a little of the color of some of the things that happened early on to give you a sense of how it unfolded. And I'd forgotten, so I flipped all the way back in my text string with Kate to see where the first text was. And I had been on a Senate delegation to Japan and traveled for 11 hours on a flight and was in immigration when I got the first text from Kate. And thank God, because I got up at 4 a.m. anyway because of the time change, and the first calls started coming in at 6:30. And I got the Caltrans director on the phone, and he was unaware, he was on it. He was unaware of the people that had been trapped here, the day trippers that couldn't get out. And I was bringing that to his attention. And to back up with Caltrans, we had a Zoom last fall to try to have the residents of Big Sur interact with Caltrans and some of the agencies on how best to plan for the winter, given the storms that had happened this year. And I think it's just charitable to say that Zoom didn't go very well. And so I reached out to the director of Caltrans and actually said, you have had a historic good relationship with the people of Big Sur. And when the bridge went down 6 or 7 years ago, the fact that that came back so quickly, you ordered the steel before the plans were final. You're losing that goodwill by the inability to communicate clearly and to interact with the community before you issue a press release. And to their credit, we established regular check-ins and a punch list of things to go down. And we are lucky that that was in place before the slip out. And it came out of the South Coast slides and sort of some of the response, the inability to say a date it might reopen. And so what happened when this happened is that I was in regular touch, and ever since the slip out, I have a weekly check-in with the regional director of Caltrans, where we go over the list of what's new, what's public, who are you talking to, dealing with those issues. And the same thing, a regular check-in with the state emergency services director. And Caltrans has informed me of one late breaking issue, that they have some concerns about the highway near St. Francis and right where the log jams were cleared last year. And so I got out ahead of it and talked to the state director of OES and said, you're going to be hearing from Caltrans. You need to work on this, because if there is something to be done here, it needs to be done before the storms. The river can't be flowing at a high level and then figure out that that is the time to do it. And as things unfolded, people were amazingly cooperative in such different ways. I hate to say this out loud, but Kirk will answer his phone really, really early in the morning. And the thing that happened is we were trying to work through this, and Caltrans was really on it. It was a question at times of whether it could be clearly explained what their process was, because the whole notion of having to secure that cage to the rocks across the highway and to have to take it down and put it back up to allow the convoys was something that wasn't always fully understood. And when we were pressuring Caltrans to try to be open before Memorial Day, it was subject to all these intangibles. Like, what if the wind blows more than 25 hours? That cage has to be pulled up and the people have to get out of it. If there's another storm or another slippage, it would delay it. And they were very concerned and wanted to be conservative. And yet, for the business interests in Big Sur, they wanted to know that as we were heading into that weekend, that you could announce before the weekend that people could come and it could be the full weekend. And then when there was the chance to open it to convoys to everybody, it was a real call of people here, because it was a trade-off. There was a chance that was going to delay the schedule a few days and maybe delay it into the Memorial Day weekend, but it would open up. And while I called Kirk and a couple of other key people, Kate, who was my erstwhile partner all the way through, did the work of really working through a lot of the different business people and seeing what people's opinions were so we could reflect it to Caltrans. And I did something in this that I don't know that I've ever done before. We were 2 or 3 days in, and I texted the governor because you don't want to piss him off. And it would, to be honest, it was a message from Alan Perlmutter, who basically said, we've been through the bridge outage, we've been through the outage at the South, we've been through the pandemic, we've been through the fires. I don't know if there's a 3 or 4 month outage, if I have enough cash to ride this out this time. And I really wanted the governor, I know the governor's in touch with some people in Big Sur, but I wanted to make sure he heard what was happening with more rank and file business people. To his credit, I had a text back in 5 or 10 minutes. He assigned his disaster person to be on it. And between the disaster person and the director of Caltrans, they were assigned to brief me every morning and every afternoon. And so I would get the update, and it worked two ways. One way, it worked that, I would generally talk to Kate right afterwards, and we would both say, that's not going to work. And I would push back on something that just might not take into account what was going on in the ground. And if it was good news or news that people needed to know, I needed to ask if it was public, how to transmit it, and make sure it pushed out to people that knew. And so it was really intense. And I just did my best to reflect things back and forth and make sure people at the top level, because for those of you, I learned a valuable lesson in the storms that doesn't involve this area that is bizarre. And that is when the levee broke in Pajaro, all that water collected above Highway 1, it went about 3 miles, and Highway 1 was up about 20 feet, and it was damming that water. And it was rising and rising, and they thought it was going to blow out the levee and blow out over to the Watsonville side. And so at the local level, for about 12 hours, they were debating whether or not to blow up 100 yards of Highway 1 and let the water through. And I'm saying, do people know this? Is anybody aware of this? And so I called the governor's chief of staff, the director of Caltrans, and the state director of emergency services. And I'm the first one breaking it to each one of the three of them that is being considered. And so it was a lesson for me that when things are being discussed here, they aren't necessarily percolating to the places where people are making decisions and need to know. And that was a really helpful lesson to happen before this, because it allowed me to do that. And then the governor, his person worked in tandem, because when we were considering opening to the general public and convoys before the full opening, before Memorial Day, there was a big concern about the first responders here, about whether they would have the ability to do things when the highway was closed most of the time in case there were emergencies or other things, and Big Sur fire. And in particular, the sheriff sort of moved her position and was a key person. And I know that the governor's person also talked to her in a way that we did a Zoom with the first responders and they signed off. And that was sort of one of the last things we needed, besides all the business people feeling like they were comfortable to be able to signal that we should go ahead and we should do this. So just as background, there were lots of things that went on there, and we were just on it. And I realized how many people here have my cell phone number but it was really helpful. It was really helpful. And then the other side I wanted to talk about is the media side. So I did interviews with some of the national press people. I did it with Politico, and there was a front page story on the Washington Post about Big Sur and the highway. And each reporter started out with weird thoughts. It was like, why don't you just reroute the highway through Big Sur? And I would say, have you been there? And try to walk them through it. And they also asked a question, which was scary to me. At what point does this become untenable and you just abandon the highway? And my response was never, for every reason that you could think of. But it told me what people that were uninitiated outside thought, and how, when I went through that interview, I had to try to move them or inform them about what the situation was. I don't know the precise number, but when you go down to where the Regent Slide is, it's I think the second highest place in North America in a short amount of space, going from sea level to 5,000 something feet. And it's not a place you're going to reroute, and it was helpful to tell them that. And so, and I want to acknowledge the difficulty of of the South Coast slides, because I think I got feedback of how hard it was to feel like there was this urgency with the Rocky Creek slide, and people were not feeling the urgency around the South Coast slides. And I feel like there is. I had hope after our Zoom with Caltrans that there was going to be a way to have a padlock and other things. And they finally decided it was a safety issue, and they were concerned. And we have had talks with UC about possible access through the UC property at the reserve. And they're still working on it, but right now there's at least access on an emergency basis for the trail, but it requires their notification. So Mark Rady, and I think it's READDIE at ucsc.edu. He needs to know before anybody starts hiking through, so that they are aware and are aware of who's going through in case something happens. But we're trying to work all those angles, and I'm hoping the time frame of roughly a month from now, the two southern slides, they finally open. And I know that they had to wait for it to dry. They had to get the equipment up at the top. They discovered an anomaly partway down, and yet they're still trying to stick to their schedule. And I just know how hard it is for people that are trapped in there. And I also feel like we have to be voices for you in that, so people understand the urgency. I have a similar situation in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and Jimmy's visited, and it's in Gail Pellerin's district, not Dawn, where this road just fell out in the storms this year. And some people have to go around an hour, but there are a number of people that can't get in or out. And I went and met with 30 residents, and in the distance, this woman walked down a driveway that is completely cut off, and she had two canes, and it took her 15 minutes to get down her driveway to us. That's a person who's cut off if there's an emergency thing or a fire or something else. And I feel the same sense of urgency of trying to make sure that we do something to address that I feel here. And so that's, while I'm monitoring the Rocky Creek slip out, that has become the major subject when I talk to Caltrans every week to see the progress they're making. If there are any options, we're talking to UC, and we are just trying to do that. So I know I've taken more than my time. I do two quick other things. And one is on fire insurance, we have formed a working group of senators working to try to do something this session. And I got myself appointed because we have to do something, and it's not going to be pleasant either way, but we're going to try to. The insurance commissioner thinks he has something that'll be ready on the 1st, and even advised us, don't worry, we don't feel that way. So we're going to go ahead and see if there's a legislative way to fix. And on the bathrooms, the Garapata Trail project, which includes an upgrade and I think a highway facing bathroom, has been stalled a little bit, and we are lobbing in some calls and pushing to see if we can't get that moving, because that'll at least be one on the thing. So, and lastly, I would just say, I always hate to lose good staff members, but I can't think of a better way to lose one than have her become my partner as a county supervisor. And there is a big inside joke among elected officials that Sam Farr believes that any staffer he ever had in his entire career is still his staffer. Once a staffer, always a staffer. I don't usually believe that. People aren't chattel, but Kate is going to remain in some special place. And we did a thing about the mouth of the Carmel River where the CIR was stalled there. And we put together a Zoom one morning. She organized it. And I went through 9 agencies and said, what do you need in that EIR to make your decision to move that along? She teed it up. I provided the heavy, and our roles might change, but I told her she still is going to have to do that periodically. So thanks. I'm sorry for taking so long, but I never get a chance to see you in person and just sort of tell you some of the things that happened when we were all working together.
Thank you, John. John. Right before John spoke, I said, I'll be short.
You know, politicians lie.
I'm actually glad he wasn't, and I'm actually pretty impressed by all of the reports by our member agents. Very substantive today, so thanks to all of you. Mine is not going to be. I'm going to be short for a couple of reasons. One, you've heard me speak all day. Two, I got a few things that I can just hit on. Most has been said. Most has been said. Three, I got a Carmel High graduation to go to where my daughter's graduating this afternoon, so I'm going to bail out of here. But in regards to the Rocky Creek slip out, I also want to acknowledge the California Highway Patrol, who really was on it right away and basically was able to manage the issue and the emergency at that point and thereafter, and obviously working with them and working with all of the state agencies that really kind of did, I believe, one hell of a job when it comes to getting it to the position where it is now and hopefully on to a full repair going forward. I want to give credit to the SBA and our work to get the recovery center here in Big Sur. Please, I cannot stress it enough. If you ever have any issue with the SBA, please contact my office. We will help you with them to make sure they do their job. And then, of course, when it comes to Rocky Creek, we want to make sure that the federal government does what it does best, and that's spend money. And that's hopefully making sure that with the Federal Highway Administration Emergency Relief Fund, that it plays a role in reimbursing Caltrans for the good work that it has and will continue to do for that slide. It's planning to submit, California's planning to submit for at least partial reimbursement from the Department of Transportation, and it will either be 100% federal or 88% federal and 12% state. Speaking of funding, obviously when it comes to rural broadband, we will continue to engage at all levels of government for making sure that Big Sur is not left out when it comes to the investment that is out there and is needed when it comes to broadband and rural broadband. That is why I held with partnering with MBAP, the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, to make sure that we had that dialogue that we did soon after last February's BISMAC. However, as you heard from Dave, and I appreciate Dave being here to talk about it briefly in public comment, there continues to be challenges making sure that we work with our ISP partners, making sure that they engage and lean into working through a plan to provide internet to reliable internet to people here in the Big Sur area. A second challenge is basically making sure that we get an accurate count of households that can be served by broadband connection in Big Sur. A big part of that are these broadband maps that are being developed by the Federal Communications Commission to ensure accuracy and better target infrastructure improvement. So if you look at these maps and if you see inaccuracies, once again, contact my office, please. I cannot stress that enough. NOAA weather transmitter, just kind of a quick digression. I really want to thank Martha. I mean, to me, look, I'll be the first to admit, and many of you know this, especially Marcus, having gone to high school with them. I don't have all the ideas. You have the ideas. That's part of the reason why we're here. I'll never forget Martha bringing the NOAA weather transmitter up to me, and we immediately got on it. And guess what? We're in the position, based on our work, to have a NOAA weather transmitter at the Coast Guard Tower Post Ranch, which they've determined to be the best location. National Weather Service has found that the transmitter that they found one that's available and now is in the process of acquiring an antenna and updating contracts with the Coast Guard to place it in there. Expected completion date is fall of 2025. So thanks, Martha, for that. Nasty Fergie, I think we've heard everything about that. I just want to really emphasize the coordination that went on and the meetings that we put together and made sure that basically everybody is working together, especially it was real good having Tom Collins as part of those meetings so that he could convey the information appropriately as he did. So really appreciate that, really appreciate the Forest Service and the Federal Highway Administration to make sure that they're continuing to get that to a place where we are happy. I'm not going to talk about the Farm Bill in regards to insurance. Oh gosh, as you know, State Farm is the largest home insurance provider in California, covering about 1 in every 5 homes in California. This week, State Farm notified many of those customers that they can keep their policy if they sign up for the California Fair Plan. In regards to that, exactly. It's really kind of interesting. And obviously, thank goodness we got John working on that task force at the state level. At the federal level, where we can come in, look, it's obviously an issue of cost, and what trying to, you don't want to compare it to the flood insurance program that's going on. That is kind of a debacle. And so once again, we continue to rely on our state partners. However, there's pieces of legislation like I'm working on with Mike Thompson and Doug LaMalfa, a bipartisan bill called the Disaster Resiliency and Coverage Act, which would basically invest and provide incentives to do mitigation measures for homeowners. Specifically, it create a grant program to be administered by the states and distributed to homeowners to fund disaster mitigation activities up to $10,000. It created a tax credit of up to 30% of the cost of mitigation activities for homeowners who actually invest in home resiliency. And it would direct states to have insurers consider disaster mitigation activities as a homeowner implements these types of things when setting up homeowner insurance premiums. So once again, it's sort of not really setting up an insurance plan, but looking at other ways in which we can encourage and incentivize homeowners to do proper mitigation going forward and give them tax breaks where necessary. So these are some of the things that we're working on when it comes to the issues that are relevant, obviously, to the Big Sur community. And I will leave it at that. So now we will open it up to public comment about what was said in regards to the member reports. And I'm going to give you 1 minute. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Marcus. Mike, go.
Yeah, so thank you, Congressman Panetta, for your help with the broadband and for your upcoming help with the California Coastal Trail. And Melanie Beretti, sorry. Question for you. I didn't hear anything about the safety element update. I'm wondering what's happening with that. And that'll have to do for now.
Just very briefly, we are also updating our safety element as part of our general plan and creating a new environmental justice element. Those are moving, but we are currently we are doing some internal administrative draft review. So our next kind of public phase will be, I think, in a couple of months.
Real quick, regarding the South Coast, a suggestion, and maybe this has already started, whether Monterey County would cooperate with San Luis Obispo County to provide first responder and anything else from the southerly direction. And it's a conversation that it could involve a lot of people at this desk. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other, we're going to go on to reports from non-member agencies. U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jonathan Aries. I'm the one and only law enforcement officer. We've had conversations, Joe and I, about getting other people out here. I know I've said it before. I wish there were like 10 of me in comparison. If you think about state parks here in the Big Sur area, they have about 5 to 7 rangers. And that's just locally here. And it's just me from here all the way down to the SLO County line. And that's not including the east side of the mountain range here. Wanted to answer or relate some feedback to some of the South Coast concerns about Nasiferg reopening. It's definitely on my radar as well. I'm already coordinating, getting ready for Labor Day weekend. I'm anticipating the road opening a little maybe closer then. We're not quite sure yet. That kind of all depends. But when that does happen, I'm going to bring extra officers up to the area to combat the campfires. That's a big deal. The roadside camping, that's also a big deal. I like to thank the Sheriff's Department for giving that authority to us to enforce that county ordinance, but we do also have a forest order as well. Campfires again, when we go into fire season, fire restrictions, it's a zero tolerance for me. So recently wrote one recently, although we're not in restrictions. It was an abandoned campfire. They got a couple of good tickets, and unfortunately, it was a Carmel High grad. So Jim, yeah, they get tickets too. Okay. But again, I rely on everyone here. Again, there's only one of me, so I really do rely on the community to help be extra eyes and ears. Contact me. And fire restrictions, I usually start working on a lot later. So you can always, easiest way in the summertime, if you're concerned about fires, call 911, reach out to the sheriff's department, and they're pretty good about giving me a call. That's all I got. Thank you.
CHP.
Take this quick and get you out of here, sir.
All
right. Hey, no kidding. There I was today. And the reason why I was late is I was stopped at that red light and 2 cars ahead of me, an individual ran the red light against traffic, trying to get to Bixby Bridge, right? Well, as soon as I drive an undercover Charger, right? So they didn't know that I was back there. I'm trying to pull that car over and a UPS truck crosses WO lines, goes through all the traffic. I'm like, what is going on? Right. I mean, it's right for the Highway Patrol commander. So that was why I was a little late coming in today, but yeah. So I've been on the job 25 years, worked all over California. And I just want to reiterate your elected representation up here has been absolutely amazing through these disasters. I have been through the fires. I've been through the mudslides, and their cooperation made my job much, much easier. All the equipment that was available, all the extra funding, just that's that whole government approach to problems that I wish we could do at the national level. But here in, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, there's a whole nother side, right? So, right. So we just got to work together and tackle these problems. And I hope that same energy goes down to the South. As we take everything that you said today, right? I internalize it and I do what I can at my level, and hopefully other people will hear that. So thank you so much. 770-8000, 770-8000. That's our phone number. Please follow all of our social media, and our PIO is very receptive and kind of gets to your traffic complaints, and we'll deploy resources as necessary. So thank you so much.
Murray County Sheriffs.
I'll try to keep this to under 20 minutes. Yeah. We'd first of all like to publicly acknowledge the California Highway Patrol, state parks, and our other law enforcement partners for helping us during the road closure that happened Easter weekend. As many of you know, the sheriff's department was cut off from being able to go past that once the road closure, the crane came into place. And so it was very beneficial and very helpful for us to be able to work with them. I do want to address one comment that was made, and that was working with our slow law enforcement agencies and emergency services when something happens south of the road closure. That's already in place. I know Highway Patrol can easily call their counterparts in SLO County, and we can confirm that we've actually also relied on SLO to help us. Most recently, we had an unfortunate death that happened in the Salmon Creek area, and we relied on our partners from San Luis Obispo County to assist us with that incident. There was also a more recent incident that took place, and so we do rely on our law enforcement partners in SLO already. And when they are available, just as we are here, we're short-staffed. If they are available, they will respond and help us. So rest assured that they are there to help us. With that, thank you very much.
We're gonna do after. That's all right, Marcus. Thanks, buddy. Monterey County Sheriff's Office. I'm sorry, Big Sur Fire.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again, Matt Harris, Big Sur Fire Chief. Thank you so much for the proclamations and the congressional record and all the support for our 50th anniversary. Obviously, it's a very special year for the organization. I feel honored to be the leader of it at this current state of it. And with that, we are embarking on a strategic plan update. We actually have an all-day session tomorrow, which is our strategic planning session internally. And then we'll be actually reaching out to all of you for solicitation and input post that. I really want to acknowledge the collaboration and the coordination with all the agencies. We've all talked about Rocky Creek. We're going to have more incidents such as fires and who knows what else, landslides and such. So what we've learned out of that is that the communication and collaboration and also the credit is so important for each of the individual agencies and their parts. And then the follow-up, the how we can improve. And I think we got a lot of really good feedback from all of us as the response agencies, but also the community. And we take that all to heart, and we're going to incorporate all that into our plan for the next emergency. Just a couple of other things. We had a really beautiful open house. I know it got rained out and we were slightly limited because of the road closure at Rocky Creek, but those that did come and enjoy an intimate day with us, thank you very much. We will have a much more open event with our Big Sur Fire Muster, which is actually here at the state park on July 13th. And we'll have another couple special events throughout the year to celebrate our 50th anniversary. And just for everybody's information, some of the emergency response stuff, which is really, what we're here to do. We've had some really high profile calls this year, some rescues, and then we had the bakery fire, a vehicle fire. We've had 81 calls to date, which might not seem like a lot, but actually it is a lot considering that we're only a few calls off of last year's call volume at the same time. Take into consideration the road closures, we can anticipate that call volume is going to be significantly increased once we have the full highway open. And I would like to acknowledge one of my firefighters, actually Paul Amend, for helping put this together, but also his swift action to make this building available during the initial Rocky Creek incident. This turned into an emergency shelter. It was sort of on a whim. We're actually going to sort of make that a little bit more formal, hopefully, so that we have some places identified. It also opened up, and Martha mentioned it with the Red Cross trailer. It identified some deficiencies, but also some opportunities. And so we're going to take full advantage of that. I'm going to work with Patty and CABS and other agencies to really have a really strong community emergency response plan that's updated for today's needs. So with that, www.bigsurfire.org. We'll be posting a new video that we made with Two Feathers collab. It turned out really, really great. We debuted that at our open house. And of course, we will continue to need your support to fulfill our mission. So thank you very much.
Martha, Byway Organization.
In my hat is a byways person, Martha Deal. Thank you very much to close out this particular section. The Byways Organization has in the past tried to figure out how to be helpful. And we listen to the emergency coordination and collaboration that goes on. Would lovely, a plan ahead, a mechanism to be helpful would be very appreciative, but we have nothing that happens between our 2 hours meetings. We have 2 hours, 4 times a year. We have a conversation. That's all we can really do, except with the help of those who are there and the energy that those are there. We don't have something that happens between meetings. We can't be really useful. And so that leads me to say that the invasive weeds question, invasive weeds are a passion project. They're a passion project for Marcos Ortega of State Parks, who put in the energy to make that work. That is no longer happening. So in terms of continuous addressing the invasive weed problem in the Caltrans right away, I think you should refer that directly to Caltrans until we can have a mechanism to deal with it more appropriately. Going forward, our next meeting, I believe, is August 19th from 10 to 12 at the Carmel Highlands Fire Station. We have not had previous meetings for a number of reasons, mostly due to quorum and a lack of administrative support. So we look forward to that conversation. I'm hoping people will help us understand how to be more helpful in building long-term collaborative ways to address these kinds of issues, both in the immediate emergency framework, which is what we've heard about so much today that's working so well informally. Byways was supposed to help with that and should be a way to help with that. Right now we can't because we don't have any mechanism to do that with. And then finally, with the idea of the Byways Organization existing at all, every conversation is important. So a 2-hour conversation once a quarter is important. It needs to go somewhere. And so an example of this is that we brought forward the emergency task force idea was a thing we thought we could do. That worked. That's kind of like being a subsidiary of the BISMAC. And so somehow or other, we need to figure out how to make that relationship work for everybody. And a good example here is that one of the things that came up at Byways early was a discussion of all this bridge rail stuff, which seems pretty trivial in face of all these emergencies, but it's a long-term total highway issue. We have been fortunate that Supervisor Adams brought forward a working group of people to talk about that with Caltrans. I was able to attend those groups as a member of the public. The outcome was that I became quite clear to understand that Caltrans, within the existing framework with which they operate, has no choice to do any of the things that we wish they would do. It's going to take a legislative action to allow them to do something different outside of their box. It's not for lack of will. I don't think there's any desire on the part of Caltrans to do anything except try to do what we'd all like them to do, which is to pretty much put back what they have now everywhere. But it's going to need all of you to help us find a way through so that we can actually help them solve their limitation problem to do what needs to be done here. And so those kinds of things are what Byways should do. We don't really have the capacity to do it. We would like to help. We'd love to hear ideas from all of those here present about how better to do that and how to keep that particular effort going forward continuously and reliably. And I don't mean to end on a bad note, because I just want to say that once again, my community talks about emergencies like they were an opportunity to excel rather than a barrier to life. And I just sit here and listen to everybody saying, well, we had an emergency and we did this and we did this and we did this all together. So thank you all.
Quickly.
Or just wondering if there's any movement as it's shared.
So I'll briefly, I can tell you that the sheriff's office remains committed, both the sheriff and the undersheriff, to bringing back a resident officer. I think it's been discussed before that housing is still one of the key issues with that. But I'm not sure if you were the person that talked to my previous commander here, which is Ivan Rodriguez. If you were, I'd like to exchange information with you and we can discuss it further.
Item agenda number 9, adjournment. Is there a motion? Yes.
Yeah.
Second.
I call the question.
Second, and any objection? So hearing none, before I approve the motion, let me just say thank you. Obviously to the Big Sur Lodge, to their AV gentlemen in the back doing a great job, our staffs, but also our members and non-members, and of course, all of the public. You guys really brought it today. I found this meeting very substantive, very as succinct as we can be, considering it's almost 2 o'clock, but I believe that there are many people who were very, very engaged, and welcome to the Big Sur community. That's what it's about. So thank you for working together as we go forward, not just to hear about the issues, but work together on the solutions. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. Motion adjourned. Next. All right.